Oui, exactement.
Alors Vincent, on a perdu le retour radio 106.5 FM, donc je sais pas, peut-être la condition météo, donc voilà, on vous entend mal, on va parfois aller un peu à l'abordage, mais c'est le mot aujourd'hui, c'est à l'abordage, effectivement, et un qui espère ne pas trop aller à l'abordage parce qu'il va partir de loin, en fait, sa voiture va partir de loin, c'est Jérémy Bell, le tour de la pole position hier, nouveau record du tour d'ailleurs, dans le circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, vous avez V2, un tour magique.
Ouais, c'était un super tour, vraiment très content avec ce tour, je pense que c'est un des plus beaux tours quali de ma carrière, donc voilà, heureux.
It's the 2018 European Le Mans Series, and race 5 brings us to Spa-Francorchamps for the 4 hours of Belgium, and we got typical Spa weather, that drizzly, very difficult to predict type of conditions, with wet tyres certainly the order of the day for the opening part of the race. And of course, we're starting this race quite a bit earlier than originally planned, brought forward by an hour and 45 minutes to avoid the worst of the weather, which is set to really kick in later on this afternoon with a potential thunderstorm on its way to this part of the Ardennes forest. A warm welcome then to our coverage. This is round 5 of a very fascinating championship. 3 categories to concentrate on, all of which could be decided championship-wise today in LMP2, LMP3 and LMGTE. It's Johnny Palmer and Graham Goodwin of dailysportscar.com to take you through it. And certainly yesterday's Michelin Le Mans Cup race was highly entertaining, not least that opening lap with many drivers actually falling off on the first time of asking. This is a 7-kilometre circuit, remember, the longest track we go to all year. It's got massive gradient change, and it can be sometimes raining at the highest point at Les Combes and bone dry down towards Stavelot and Curve Paul Frere. It is a challenge purely just one lap at a time, really, and we've got 4 hours of this to look forward to, Graham.
Yeah, good morning. I was about to say good afternoon, but of course with that shift forward almost 2 hours earlier than we were expecting to be talking to you this morning. Here we are in the late morning, and with the GMW Ferrari's yellow paint job brightening up what's a very grey scene at Spa-Francorchamps. Yes, 2 hours yesterday in the gloom and the rain, but actually remarkably well composed, the Michelin Le Mans Cup field. Very little by way of major drama. I'm sure that's what the teams, the drivers, and for that matter race control will be hoping for when this gets going. Altogether different kettle of fish, the European Le Mans Series grid from the Michelin Le Mans Cup. It's a big grid of LMP2 cars, 600 horsepower and a slippery track, not conducive to an easy time at the wheel, whether or not you picked any of the 3 chassis combinations. GTE 2, of course, not the level of electronic assistance you'll get in a GT3 car, with no ABS, for instance, in a GTE, Porsche or Ferrari. And you can see, I wouldn't say foreboding. I think some of these guys quite like racing in the rain. But this could get very busy. Turn 1 is going to be very interesting indeed. Rouge, more interesting still. But if we can get this going, probably under safety car, I'd have thought at this stage, so that the drivers can actually just scope out what the conditions are, then this is certainly raceable as the weather stands right now, Johnny.
Yes, and there is a decision to be made as to whether we start behind the safety car or they just let them race. And at the moment, it's not raining a great deal. It's that sort of miserable drizzle that we've got right now, but the road surface is clearly very, very wet. And massive umbrellas on the grid, and it's a grid walk that is open to all fans, again emphasising the accessibility of this championship. with entry fees next to nothing. I mean, it's €10, isn't it, to get into the paddock?
It's free to get in.
That's
€10
right.
to get into the paddock, which gives you pit walk, autograph sessions, and you're quite right, the grid walk as well. And whilst the weather hasn't been conducive to a big crowd here this weekend, it's certainly a package that's made some friends amongst the fan base. I know from Silverstone with the WC on board, it wasn't quite the same package there, but still the access that fans were getting, a lot of people drawn of course by some of the big Formula 1 names coming to the WEC, has brought more friends to ACO Rules Racing, and that's certainly going to have a knock-on effect for the European Le Mans Series and the markets we're going to. We'll talk about that a little later, with some changes coming for the calendar next season, announced just yesterday. But that's well, we're sitting somewhere behind that grandstand at the moment, Johnny Palmer, in the Merc. That's taken from the top of the hill. The rise and fall of this circuit has to be seen to be believed.
Yeah.
But weather can change. We might get a marginal change for the better, but as you said a little earlier, Johnny, we are expecting a significant turn for the worse somewhere in the second half of this race.
Yeah, and obviously teams will keep glued to radar systems and try and track the weather that is heading towards us, but this place is renowned for adding a sting in the tail. You might follow a weather system directly towards Spa, and then it will change direction at the very last moment. The start of the race will be under a safety car procedure. We're hearing that now. The 5-minute board to be held in 10 minutes' time, but we are going to start behind the safety car.
Had a quick chat late yesterday evening as he was leaving the circuit with Eduardo Freitas, the race director, about the change that had been made. And Eduardo's major concern is the fact not just that we've got the rain, but no wind. So it means that the water that is being chucked off the circuit, if you like, by way of spray, is just falling back down onto the racing surface. Eduardo making it very clear that his principal strategy for dealing with a wet track is to get the cars out there, because they will do a pretty good job of helping to clear the surface. But of course, if there's no wind, that's not really assisting, and there's certainly not a lot of wind this morning. Keep an eye on that. This is the RLR M Sport car, and here for Nutet, and there is the young Dutchman just about to climb aboard, just spotted on the way down here. It's a very large contingent of UTET's fans and customers in an awning in the hospitality area. Certainly it seems to me to be well into three figures. There's a young man that's a coming man in LMP racing. And hot contest to see who gets that signature for next year. Of course, I think he's expected to stay as a silver driver next year, which will make him a really hot property.
Yes, and Jotvanuta then to start the RLR car. Further up the LMP3 field, the number 7 Kyriakos Nielsen car will start from 4th position in LMP3, and this is a bank of Ligiers, but they were all beaten to it by a Norma M30 for pole position. We'll see the pole car in just a moment.
Colin Noble aboard the car, and he'll start that car, and comes on the back of a first win in the Michelin Le Mans Cup yesterday. Fine win for Kyriakos Nielsen with, in that case, Alistair McCaig with the young Scots, joined on the grid for this one with teammates Alex Kapadia and Christian Olsen. Another combo that is beginning to pay dividends on the experience coming the way of the young Dane and the young Scot. Alex Kapadia, the wise old head, amongst those three.
Well, they come here on the back of 2 second-place finishes at Red Bull Ring and Silverstone, so they'll be obviously wanting to go one better here. 6th in the championship. It's very condensed at the top of the LMP3 championship, with obviously still 51 points available, and therefore 5 or 6 teams that could still win the championship, including this lot, which is 360 Racing. We haven't seen James Swift as part of that driving lineup for a little while now. It's again a 2-driver effort, Terence Woodward and Ross Kaiser, and it will be Ross to start that car from 3rd position in class. And this is the car that is 2nd in the championship, with Mattia Drudi, who impressed me massively in the 12 car, the sister machine at Euro International at Silverstone. And Mattia has been moved across to join Kay van Berlo, who's a real talent too, just 17 years old, and Giorgio Mondini. That car could be very strong today.
Hugely strong. That's I expect, if the dramas, weather-related dramas, can stay away from the 11 car, they'll be very strong contenders indeed. This is the ultimate Norma, Mathieu Lehay, doing a stellar job with the car yesterday on pole position. This 3-man crew heading from the European Le Mans Series for a winter season in Asia in LMP2, and they're hoping on the back of the form we've seen from them in LMP3 this season, Johnny, to be looking at potentially raising the funds to step up to LMP2 next year. Some good news this weekend for boosts for the LMP2 field for 2019. We can talk about that as the race progresses, but excellent stuff from Ultimate. They've been a standout performing team this season.
Particularly in qualifying. That's the third pole for Ultimate this year, and Mathieu always putting in the time. They just haven't had the results, sadly. A best place of third at Silverstone a month ago, but a non-finish at Paul Ricard means that they've done some catching up basically in the championship ever since that first round. Grid starting to be cleared, obviously tyre trolleys being wheeled into the correct positions as well. I can't think anything other than wet tyres will be the decision for both Dunlop and Michelin, and it is very much a tyre war in this category. LMP2 with, from 7th position, the number 21 Dragon Speed car, Nicolas Lapierre to start the machine. We often have seen Henrik Hedman installed in the 21, but I think because of the conditions they've changed their strategy a little bit. 4th in the championship for Dragon Speed. And this is Racing Engineering with a race win already this year at the start of the year, the only other car to win a race apart from the championship leaders. And Racing Engineering, again, a big future you feel in prototype racing.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, they're certainly looking to move onwards, upwards. Whether or not we see an expansion to a second car for them next year, I think is up in the air, without a shadow of a doubt. Could be talking big numbers of P2 cars here. We've already got big numbers. It's 16 cars here. We've had up to 18 in the season this year. The APR by Rebellion Racing car, Gustavo Menezes, American driver, already a WEC champion in LMP2 and flying high in LMP1. Principally, it should be said, because of the reliability of his Rebellion LMP1 car in the WEC, and then that shock double exclusion for Toyota. But they are sitting second in the WEC Drivers' Championship right now.
Yeah.
28, and this is a team with a story to tell today, Johnny Palmer. Paul-Luc Chatin will start the car, but you'll notice there, alongside Memo Rojas, Gabriel Aubry aboard the car, and we need to say get well soon to Paul Lafargue. I know you were at Barcelona for another race a couple of weeks ago, Johnny Palmer, where Paul had suffered some back trouble.
Yes, and was due to drive an EDEX Sport Mercedes AMG GT3 car, but Marvin Klein was brought in to replace Paul, who was complaining of back pain then. So we're in a bizarre situation where both EDEX Sport cars don't feature a Lafargue, and it is very much a family effort at EDEX Sport, but Patrice has gone to the local hospital to look after Paul, his son. And an operation, we understand, is either underway or having been done yesterday to cure for once, or for finally, this back issue for Paul Lafargue. But one car you're going to feel a back problem in is an LMP2 machine.
Yep, it's a wise decision, I think, not to take on this challenge. Do get well soon. Back pain is nobody's idea of a great weekend. Paul Lafargue, get better, and we will see you next season, I'm sure.
Duquesne, starting from 3rd position, we caught a brief glimpse of that black and dark blue car of Pierre Rag, Nicolas Jamin and Nelson Panziuticci, and it'll be Jamin to start that car then from the 3rd row. And on the front row, a really good qualifying performance, nearly snatching pole at the very death of yesterday's session, Philippe Albuquerque. And the way that they do things at United Autosports, mainly down to Phil Hansen's decision, is that it's just a 2-driver lineup to give Phil as much drive time as possible. Expect an heroic stint then from the young Brit, only 19 years old, and he's often in that car for well over 2 hours. And
of course, there's a big change here, because the switch that's been made with very little fanfare for the final 2 races of this season is United Autosports switch to Michelin rubber. You're absolutely right. Felipe Albuquerque, out of nowhere, right at the death of the session, popped up in provisional pole position, only to be pipped. The G-Drive squad, having spotted that United were going on a bit of a charge in the dying embers of the session, and they released Jean-Eric Verne, who just pipped him by just under 0.2 of a second to pole position. So we've got absolutely everything that appeals about this class on that front row. 2 very different teams, 2 very different driver squads, 1 3-driver squad, 1 2-driver squad, a Ligier and an Orica, Michelin and Dunlop.
And there are the times. So 2 minutes 0.7, compare that to a 2 minutes 0.9 for It was Jean-Eric Verne who set the time, but Andrea Pizzitella to start the 26 car alongside, as we say, Phil Hansen. Then Duquesne and Edek on the second row, Jamin and Paulo Chatin ahead of the APR Rebellion Racing machine of Gustavo Menezes alongside the Racing Engineering Norman Nato-driven Orica. Two more Oricas to come next with Lapierre alongside, beg your pardon, Delara from AVF. And then the 32 versus the 23. We're getting towards the rear of the LMP2 field now, just another 5 cars rather on the grid. Now, the interesting thing about Graf is that we didn't see either of the 40 or the 39 cars in qualifying yesterday, so you'll notice no times against James Allen and Jonathan Hershey. But part of the rule when we grid the cars up is that even if cars didn't feature in qualifying, they are put at the back of the LMP2 grid so as not to be muddled up in amongst LMP3 and GTE cars. LMP3 pole set by Ultimate. We've explained how that session unfolded with Euro International a real threat this weekend, and the championship leaders are further back down the grid. So look out for those cars coming through the order with quite a bit of work to do. And GTE, 6 cars then in the entry once again. They've been the resident 6 all year pretty much. We had a couple of extra ones at the start of the year at Paul Ricard, but the championship is led by the pole-sitting GTE machine of Proton Competition. It is Gianluca Roda to start that car, number 88. So Roda Senior racing with son Giorgio and Matteo Cairoli, who was the class of the GTE field yesterday. He said he was quite emotional actually after yesterday's 7-kilometre lap, because it couldn't have been any better, basically. Very rarely do you have a perfect lap around here at Spa, but I think he hit the gap in the traffic brilliantly well, and also then just never missed a beat throughout that lap, and actually parked it swiftly after that, realising there's nobody going to be able to do anything better than that, and so it proved. So it's the second pole of the year for Car 88, and they lead this championship by 9 points. And bearing in mind there's only 6 cars in GTE, that is still wide open for me. Second in the championship is the 66 J&W Motorsport Ferrari. That starts from 4th on the grid. Liam Griffin, Alex McDowell and Miguel Molina, winners last time out at Silverstone. And third in the championship, also with a win this year, is the Spirit of Race 55 Ferrari of Duncan Cameron, Matt Griffin and Aaron Scott. That starts 5th.
It does look to me as if this has been the correct decision, bring this race forward. Whilst there is a little bit of drizzle, we're certainly not seeing the stair rods of rain that we've seen throughout certain parts of the weekend. And absolutely, as Johnny said a little earlier, are predicted in just a few hours' time here. So hopefully we can get the maximum amount of racing time. 3 minutes to the start of the race. As we said a little earlier, it will start behind the safety car. 2 reasons. Let's the drivers just see where the worst of the conditions on track are, and it will help to move some of the water from the track with these 40 cars able to shift that water. Johnny mentioned the 2 Graf cars. Terrible free practice too, I'm afraid, for that team. Both cars in real strife. James Allen in the number 40 car, that's the G-Drive liveried car, into the wall at turn 13. Lots of bodywork damage, I'm afraid, there. The 39 car caught out by a sudden rainstorm at La Source, and Tristan Gomendy into the wall. Unfortunately, that's proved to have actually damaged the tub, and a major sporting gesture, loan of the spare tub from TDS Racing. So look for a little bit of orange on that on the 39 car. That 39 car has been rebuilt around TDS Racing's spare tub. So excellent work from both squads there. And we go racing with the 16 LMP2 cars that were entered here.
So very, very few personnel now on the grid, probably 1 mechanic per car to make sure they start up, and this will be a start behind the safety car, and yes, confirmation that that will be the case. Yep. From Eduardo Freitas, who has radioed all the teams individually, well, kind of this ability to blanket message everybody. There's Phil Hansen, the picture of concentration ahead of probably a 2.5 hour, maybe approaching 3 hour stint for a man that's still only 19 years old and possesses raw pace, the silver-graded driver, and that's only been enhanced now. He's been coupled up with Philippe Albuquerque, I think, as the mentor. I think
that's a new helmet design for Phil as well. It's very fetching, kind of silver to blue, but Phil's put in some, well, epic Ironman stints, hasn't he, this season? Monza in particular just seemed to be in the car all day.
Yeah.
Felipe Albuquerque being released at the end of the race, but it'll be interesting to see just how, well, on the Michelin wets in this instance, whether or not that allows United Autosports to be more ultimately competitive across the race distance than they've managed to do so far this season. There's some real frustration there, having been real title contenders last year. They've simply not been able to get in the mix across the full race distance. And, well, look out for a couple of stories in the next 24 hours or so about some choices that will be made by...
15 seconds to start the race behind the safety car.
Made by United Autosports, which might surprise a few people. We're going to see them back in the LMS next year. It's where else we might see them.
I've been doing various points permutations. We'll run you through those, obviously, through the course of the 4 hours.
Behind the safety car.
It's more likely that LMP2 will be decided today.
I do remind everyone we are under safety car procedures.
As we've already mentioned, yes, LMP2 is the biggest gap at the moment because G-Drive have come here. They go on to 88 points, of course, now that they've gained that point yesterday from yesterday's pole position, and that gives them, prior to this race, a 35-point gap. Now, if, for instance, Racing Engineering were to win this race, they would go to 78 points, and that would mean that even a third place finish for G-Drive Racing would leave it wide open for the final race. So a top 2 finish for G-Drive, it would be sealed, even if Racing Engineering, the yellow and red car from Spain, won the race. But anything outside the top 2, and we're probably going to go to Portimao with the championship still to be decided, far more likely that it's going to go down to the wire in LMP3 and GTE, because the points deficit is much, much tighter. And there are several teams still to be involved in that, I reckon, too.
So there we go, your first opportunity. You've seen it with the drizzle in the air, and it looks actually almost like a kind of, you know, bracing autumn day. Once we get these cars moving in a straight piece of track, all of a sudden, the picture looks very different indeed. Massive spray, some standing water at various parts of this track, and it remains to be seen how well that settles down. Eduardo Freitas and Race Control will be hoping that the wind will just give it a bit of an assist here, so what we're not going to get is this spray just sitting as a low mist almost, because there's enough cars on track that within a couple of laps there will not be many parts of the circuit without a race car in it. One of the pluses, and indeed in this instance the minuses, of mixed class racing. And, 16 LMP2 cars, 18 LMP3 cars, and 6 GTE cars. Makes for a busy track for all concerned.
So no need for a green flag lap, the clock already starting to tick down, and therefore we are effectively in the race at this point. And it now really depends on how many laps Eduardo Freitas wants to stay behind the safety car for. 2, 3, maybe 4. And this is to give everybody an idea of what the conditions are like. There is a reminder then on the GTE Trophy Drivers' Championship. Gianluca and Giorgio Roda race together. They race with Matteo Cairoli, but Cairoli sat out the Monza round when Jimmy Bruni came in with the 88 Porsche instead. So Cairoli technically can't be Drivers' Champion now because his 2 co-drivers are a round ahead. Here is how the rest of the Drivers' Championship looks. We'll probably be concentrating on teams, though, through the course of the race. So 88 on 72 points, 66 on 63, and 55 on 58. That's only a 14-point span separating 3 teams, and 77 not very far away either. They trail the championship leaders by 19. And we've got 51 still on the table, so wide open in GTE, and it always traditionally is as well, helped by the fact that there are 6 cars, and therefore every car, unless there's a massive drama, every car should pick up some sort of points in this race.
Yeah, no little disquiet, I should say, though, amongst the Ferrari teams here. The pace advantage of the Porsches, for whatever reason, at Spa all weekend has been profound. 2 seconds quicker a lap, and of course in the worse weather we've got today, that is not going to be closing up very much. So some not very happy bunnies aboard Ferrari 488s here in terms of the level of competitiveness they're expecting to be able to show against the trio of Porsche 911 RSRs. 2 from Proton Competition, one from EB Motors, and those 3 have been pretty consistently top of the timing screens by a distance in every session so far.
The only thing I will say to counteract that is that certainly in the World Endurance Championship, and I think in ELMS as well, we've generally seen the Ferrari slightly better on fuel consumption.
Yep.
So if it can squeeze out a couple of laps extra, or even just 1 lap, that's an extra 7 kilometres before the Ferraris need to pit, and that might make the difference, bearing in mind...
Managers, please remind your drivers to turn on the rain lights. I'm getting reports of some cars on track which may not have them. All cars must have rain lights on. Under these conditions, I will stop you if you don't.
Bearing in mind, we've now had 5 qualifying sessions this season, 4 of which have been topped by Porsches in GTE.
Yep.
The only exception being JMW Motorsport taking a pole position, and JMW were on pole the opening round. No, it was
last time round.
Red Bull. No, it was Red Bull Ring.
Last time round.
2 races ago, because we had
Silverstone.
between.
Of course we did.
So. Red Bull Ring, but that was the race, of course, that then JMW Motorsport retired from with a gearbox-related issue. However, you look at the wins, and we've had 2 for JMW. We've had 1 for another Ferrari, the 55, and only 1 win so far for the Porsche 88. I mean, they've been consistent across the other races, but that just shows that Ferrari can offer pace when we come to the 4-hour race format.
And this is the beauty, I guess, isn't it, the Pro-Am aspect of, because effectively the GTE class here in the Le Mans Series runs to GT-Am regulations that you might be more familiar with in the FIWC. So the trio of Algarve Pro drivers there, Captain Kim on the left, the venerable Mark Patterson in the middle, and I think Dr. Young, who won't be racing here this weekend, replaced, stepped aside for Spa, to put Matt McMurray in the 25 car. But yeah, that's where the kind of Pro-Am aspect, the driver selection aspect of this swings back into action. There's another factor. The other factor, of course, that is different from the WEC is that here in the ELMS, the cars are all on a spec Dunlop tyre. Now, it may well be that that tyre, through no fault of anybody's, actually suits the Porsche slightly better. So let's wait and see what comes out of this. Matteo Caroli there gives us a quick wave. What a talent that boy is.
Absolutely unstoppable yesterday, and just parked it after half the session pretty much. The 88 was going to go no faster, and it proved with nobody really able to come close to that time. The 77 gave it a good go after a great qualifying performance from Dennis Olsen, and it's his teammate Christian Reed to start the 77 car, and the 80 Ricardo Perez. So Porsche in GTE, Ferrari 4th, 5th and 6th on the grid. And in LMP3, I mentioned about the championship leader being a little bit further down the grid. 5th place is still a good starting position for Joop van Uitert, and he shares that car with John Ferrano and Rob Garofal. We'll probably see Joop van Uitert work his way up the order, although Jean-Baptiste Lehay probably can't offer the same sort of speed as those behind, but Mathieu Drudy will not be hanging around. Likewise, Ross Kaiser, Colin Noble and Joop van Uitert. This is going to be...
That top 5 is pretty epic,
tremendous
actually.
Battle to watch, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think Joop van Uytert's going to have it all his own way. Colin Noble, definitely another of the coming men in this field. Young Mr. Drudy, you're absolutely right, by the way. What a standout talent he looks like he's proving to be.
Yeah.
And Mathieu Lehay, in fact it's Jean-Baptiste Lehay, isn't it? Sorry, apologies, you've just said that. I think is the man under pressure. We saw yesterday that at GT and LMP3 racing pace, these kinds of conditions were raceable. This is a circuit that drains particularly well, unlike Silverstone last time around, and the controversy we've had there with the job that's been done at that circuit on drainage, etc. Here, the drainage is pretty good. The problem is going to be how much water is still falling out of the sky and whether or not the water is moving from the track surface. There's not a lot of wind in the air, and my particular concern would be the pace that you'd be looking to get under an LMP2 car. Absolutely raceable if we were talking about GTs and LMP3s. Let's wait and see how things emerge if the rain gets heavier for those P2 cars.
Yeah, so reliant on the aero grip, of course. Don't have much mechanical grip at all on an LMP2 car, and if they're not up to speed, the chances of spinning off and hitting some of the furniture were very, very high indeed.
I have some gaps on the pack. The idea is we do understand visibility issues, but those very big gaps may be a little bit uncomfortable for safety reasons also. So let's see what we can do. If you were under race conditions, you will not have those gaps for sure.
So the instruction to try and close up a little bit, and that's maybe so that we can go for a race start on a short call. It means that the 2x2 side-by-side grid can be formed up very quickly indeed, but there's so much spray pouring off these leading cars, visibility virtually nothing for those in the mid-pack. 40 cars heading round this 7-kilometre circuit then, but at this slowish speed, I'm sure that much of that water isn't really being cleared. As you say, lack of wind is also a problem, and the pace car now heading down towards Le Fagna corner and heading for campus in a moment or two, but we're still a good 5, maybe 10 minutes away from a proper race start.
It's an interesting point here. We just had a quick shot. John Falbert, Philippe Albuquerque, Will Owen there, and Christian Olsen in the Nielsen Racing pits. There's been a variety of strategies applied here, knowing that the likelihood was that we're going to start under safety cars, knowing that this may be the best of the conditions for the day, between who's putting a pro in the car and who an
Information
am.
to the pit lane, safety car instructed to go at his maximum speed. Safety car was requested now to go at his maximum speed.
So that is Eduardo basically seeing whether this is going to be good to go for a race start reasonably soon. The new ACO, LMEM, WCNE LMS 911 Porsche safety cars, magnificent things they are. But soon I think we're going to see whether or not they're going to be content to let these cars go. And I suspect we're going to be going racing pretty soon.
Yeah, well, could be at the end of this lap. I expected a few more laps behind the safety car, but now the question is, how much really is everybody gaining from going round at this sort of speed? Everyone knows the potential grip out there, or lack of grip, and it's not really changing. 14 degrees Celsius obviously won't be burning any water off. The rain is still coming down, but just that very fine rain, and I don't think it's really adding to what's already down on the track surface.
Yep, there's a quick shot there of Nick Manassian, sporting director at EDEC Sport, and will be racing in the team's Ligier. He was talking there to Anthony Negavond, the customer service man at Orica. Might get a few part sales after this one.
Yes, good point. Big spray, cloud of spray down the Kemmel Straight, and that's only going to get worse when we do get up to full speed. Gustavo Menezes just wiggling his way through Les Combes, getting the tail out just to assess how much grip there is on the exit of that second bit of Les Combes, and also they're all trying to maintain tyre temperature in either their Dunlop or Michelin tyres. Easy to do in these rear-wheel drive cars. It's the fronts though that will be lacking in temperature, particularly because the ambient is relatively low as well. The lights are out. No, they're not. They're still flashing away on the top of that Porsche.
So the order, when we finally get this one going, will be the G-Drive Racing Squad, Andrea Pizzitola, silver rank driver, very quick boy indeed, aboard the 26. It'll be Phil Hanson we saw aboard the 22 United Autosports Ligier, Nico Jama in the Duquesne Engineering Orica, EDEC Sports 28 Orica, that is Paul Chatin.
Safety car is coming in this lap. Safety
We're going racing.
Coming in this lap.
Then Gustavo
It's up
Menezes.
to the leader now to dictate the pace. No overtaking before you cross the finish line. Cars should be in line until they cross the finish line. Cars should be in line. There is no grid formation. Cars should be in line. This is a safety car procedure.
Normonato, Nico Lapierre, Konstantin Tereshchenko, Hugo de Sadler, Julian Canal, Felipe Nasra, and it's your back. Aurelien Panis making his sports car racing debut here in LMP2. The son of Olivier Panis, Matt McMurray, James Allen and Jonathan Hershey are your P2 squads. Some big names in amongst that lot. This is going to get hot and hectic.
Yeah, and bear in mind, Nicolas Jama, who starts third, is a gold. He's got two silver drivers up ahead of him. Paul Chatin set to make a bit of ground, probably followed by Gustavo Menezes and Norman Nato, and Nicolas Lapierre for that matter. But nice little mixture of silver and gold drivers at the front.
Not information. Not information. This is a safety car procedure. The The track is now green. No overtaking before the finish line. All cars in line.
Yeah, starting to set up for a 2x2, and actually the instruction from Eduardo Freitas is this is a safety car restart, so it has to be single file.
There could be some penalties coming here if they're not listening, and there's at least one car, that is the Dragon Speed car, or the car alongside it not in line.
Yeah.
Ducks back in for the bus stop. They'll be watching this carefully.
And one car peels off into the pit lane.
Like the EDEC Sport car.
From 4th position, so Paul Chatin not happy with something. The finish line is way before the start line here at Spa, remember, and you can now overtake into the braking area at La Source if you are so brave. And Nicolas Lapierre already under pressure from Konstantin Tereshenko, who was overlapping the Dragon Speed white and blue car, but Lapierre gets much better exit speed out of La Source corner and is now all over the back of Norman Nato in the car that's second in the championship racing engineering. This is going to be tough now for the first time of asking through Eau Rouge and over the top at Radion. Hold your breath, everybody. Let's hope everyone gets through safely in amongst all the spray as the 28 car you rightly identified, Graham, is now in the pits for a rear left tyre change.
Yes, it was both left tyres at least, so whether or not that was a puncture, whatever that was, he wasn't happy.
No.
Not happy to the point where it was worth that stop.
LMP3s heading through Eau Rouge and Radion, and with GTs of course mixed in with those, because the fastest GT car was quicker than 4 of the LMP3s, and there's a nice little dice developing initially then between 55 and the 83 car. Nick Johnson trying to gain ground on Duncan Cameron.
Some shifting of position in the mid-pack in the LMP3s. I spotted Garrett Grist dropping down through the order. Scott Andrews, late replacement for Sean Rahal, aboard the number 3 United car, moving up a place or two. Keep an eye on that, the way that that one pans out as we get into more steady running. But side by side here, 2 of the LMP2 cars through the spray. This is a battle for 3rd position.
Second, actually, because Jamin's got ahead now of Phil Hansen. So Jamin now into second, 3rd position for Menezes.
Yep.
And Hansen, struggling in these conditions, has fallen back to 4th place in that number 22 United Autosports Ligier.
Silver ranked driver, remember, Phil, and he'll be under instruction just to keep it steady. Let himself get settled in. Gustavo Menezes, though, is looking for 2nd position here, right under the rear wing of the Decane Engineering man. Jamin and Menezes into the gravel, though, and as Fjordbach, I think, started the race in the number 49 car. It's dropped back as a result. He has managed to regain the track, though. Yellow flag is withdrawn as the car gets going.
And that was down at Stavelot corner with the gravel trap right on the outside, almost calling you in these conditions. Tyre battle very definitely at the head of the order. It's the Dunlop Shod 26 G-Drive car prepared by TDS Racing, remember, that leads the car that runs on Michelin tyres, the black and blue of Duquesne Engineering, reaching La Source corner now, driven by Nicolas Jamin, and then it's Gustavo Menezes also on Dunlop tyres. Side by side as the championship leader tries to get through and into what would be 2nd place, so Job van Uitert wasting no time at all. There was side by side contact in the braking area. This is up alongside young Italian Mattia Drudi, so a 20-year-old on the inside, 19-year-old Dutchman Job van Uitert trying to outbrake him into La Source corner. Very wide from the Dutchman, that means outside to the inside maybe, and can he get the overlap on the exit? So difficult to pick these cars out. Yes, they draw alongside again, but Eau Rouge comes next. That's a left-hander followed by a right. Surely not too abreast in these conditions through there.
Oh, he's got him.
Got him already.
Yeah, more experience at this Spa-Francorchamps track from Job van Uitert, and got the better drive. He did the over-under, got the better drive. Didn't look initially as if he had the momentum, but it was a good move, and I suspect probably young Mr. Drudy just decided to give better at that point.
Yeah, well, it's a long race to utter that phrase for the first time of many, no doubt, and you don't want to do anything stupid where, you know, playing the long game here, don't delay yourself by overly defending.
No, and that has actually been a pretty big mix-up in LMP3 in the opening pacey corners here. Ultimate in the hands of Jean-Baptiste Lehay, leading from Job van Uitert, then Mathieu Drudy, Ross Kaiser, and then Colin Noble, with the 49 Dallara recovering in amongst that group. In the GTE order, Ricardo Pera has gone to the lead here, number 80 car, ahead of Gianluca Roda. and Christian Reed.
Perez started third in class, and he had ahead of him the bronze Christian Reed and Gianluca Roda, who's also bronze. So that's gone with form as well, with Riccardo Pera, 19 years old, Italian, and the silver in that combination, racing with Brett Curtis and Fabio Babini this weekend. Here's the race leader heading into the bus stop chicane then to end what is lap 6. We had the first 4 behind the safety car, remember, and already nearly 20 minutes into the 4 hours of Spa, but the leaders very much together. It's Pizzitola leading for G-Drive ahead of Jamin, Menezes and Hansen for Duquesne, APR Rebellion and United Autosports.
It'll be interesting to see not just how it works out with the tyres in these conditions, but also how the various LMP2 chassis cope. At the moment, it's an all-Orica affair 1, 2, 3. Pace with Dalara's, though, is pretty good right now. We'll keep an eye on that as that one emerges from the Merc. As well as the Ligiers, of course, with United Autosports to the 4 at the moment. They're 2 Ligiers, the 2 quickest of the lot, with Julian Canal starting the Panis Partis car, also in the top 10, though.
Racing Engineering 5th ahead of Nicolas Lapierre, who's making waves through the traffic as well. He's gained 1 place from his starting position. Konstantin Tereshenko not very far away.
And that is Racing Engineering up the inside for Phil Hansen there. Not there, I'm afraid, but that's given Nicolas Lapierre an opportunity to close back up. So it's now a 3-car battle for 4th. 4-car battle very soon with Tereshenko will join the party. Another pit stopper. This time it is the 49 after that run through the gravel for Anders Fjordstad.
Yeah, and all very wide indeed for the Racing Engineering car, Norman Nato.
That was a big slide there from Phil Hansen, though, and takes the, dear me, Lapierre takes the opportunity to get by Norman Nato and almost had the opportunity to get on terms of the Ligier as well. But all of a sudden, it looked to me like there was no grip where they expected to have it. No,
somehow Lapierre found it though, and Tereshenko's actually not looking too shabby here either for AVF by Adrian Valles. That's the best placed Dallara. Felipe Nasser not very far away either for Vilorba Corsa in his Dallara. Car 47's on the tail of the number 30. There it is in the dark blue colours. So Dallara's, I mean, not featuring the top 6 right now, but they're not very far away as Lapierre goes around the outside of Phil Hansen. And
great
can
move.
he make it work?
Yes, he can. That was a great move.
There.
You could see that was really absolutely on the ragged edge. And again there, young Phil Hansen, I think, decided, OK, this time I'm not going to quite tough it out to the max. But Lapierre on the very edges of available grip. Tereshenko now with Norman Nato. Let's go almost side to side by side rather. He can see just in his mirrors at the moment what will be just an indefinable ball of light, and here it comes. It comes into sharp focus, and Nasra up the inside. A beautiful move there through the bus stop to take the position.
Yeah, 2 Dallaras then, not thankfully taking chunks out of each other. Nasser attacking around the outside of the bus stop chicane, which gave him the inside line for the left-hand bit, and he gets the place on Tereshenko, so that will give him 7th position. Another quick thought about Phil Hansen, of course, United changing tyres, so is he still familiarising himself with how these Michelins behave beneath
Quite possibly. They've tested, but
yes.
I'm not sure they've had much testing in this sort of weather. We've got yellow flags at turn 8.
Bruxelles corner, the right-hand hairpin after Les Combes, and that's where we said there wasn't much grip. I mean, we nearly lost Norman Nato and Phil Hansen there. So these leading cars, the gap's coming down incidentally, but they're about to head into the yellow flag area, and the really good LED squares that you can pick out even in these difficult conditions. It was Fjordbach again who's gone straight on. Now, is that the reason for the yellow flag at Bruxelles? I reckon it might be a replay actually from earlier on at Stavelot. And a change of lead in LMP3, because now Joop van Uitert has gone around the outside of Jean-Baptiste Lehay to take the race lead in LMP3, and it is the 49 that's off at Bruxelles corner. It's gone into the gravel, it's now reversed out of the gravel, hence the reason why there's a sort of...
I don't think you can see. If you look at the car is entirely fogged up. I don't think you can see.
That will be an issue, obviously, for Anders Fjordbach. They've changed tyres already. He's had an off at Stavelot early on in the race, immediately after the safety car. And this is for the race lead now in LMP2 and overall. And Pizzitola taking the wide line through Campus Corner where there is grip, as Lapierre just proved, but Nicolas Jamin for Duquesne Engineering now fighting for inside line grip and hasn't got it.
Oh, fabulous stuff from this pair.
So Pizzitola finds the grip on the outside of the corner and is able to accelerate through Curve Paul Frere with no delay whatsoever. Now towards Blanchimont. Close your eyes and hope that both these cars come out unscathed the other side. They do. And Pizzitola all of a sudden finds a couple of extra kph through that section and stays in front to complete lap 8.
Yeah, two real talents at the moment in LMP2, two coming men in LMP2, and a great battle there. Full respect shown between these two drivers and completely different lines through every corner, and somehow they come up more or less line astern again. Goes wide there, Jamin looking for the cutback. Is that going to work for him here? Or is Pizzitola going to be wise to it? Duquesne Engineering have made a stellar entry into LMP2 this year, have been contenders more or less everywhere, not quite made it stick yet, but will certainly be a force to be reckoned with coming into next season.
Had a very good result on the road at Red Bull Ring, but then were disqualified because of the wrong fuel, traces of the wrong fuel being found in the tank of the number 29 Duquesne Engineering car. But Nicolas Jamin, a real talent, just 22 years old, from Rouen in France, and races in the Blancpain Endurance Series, did the Spa-Francorchamps, so loads of experience around this place from this year, and has raced in the States as well in Indy Lights. He's coming out now of Les Combes corner.
Got a
Still
great
can't
run,
get there.
got a great run through the middle part of Les Combes, and puts himself in a great position to attack now as they come down the hill. Two United Autosports car, by the way, together now. Phil Hansen falling into the clutches of Hugo de Sadelier.
And the Swiss driver now on the tail of the Brit, therefore. That is for 7th and 8th places. Here's Jamin's attempt at Pouhon corner to take the lead, but Pizzitola running the high line, and again there's grip out there.
Wow. You'd seen the two cars coming into that corner, you'd have thought that's done. It wasn't. Should say, by the way, de Sadelier has managed to get by Norman Nato as well.
Yes.
Into that. Here comes Jamin again, this time to the outside, and this time he makes it stick. Great stuff, gentlemen.
So the 2015 US Formula 2000 champion Nicolas Jamin, doing a lot of his racing in the States in the mid-2010s, but now becoming more and more experienced in Europe, and loves this place, clearly, knows where all the grip is in the wet conditions, but as does Andrea Pizzitola, in fairness. And Pizzitola was staying off the natural racing line, and on the slightly banked corners where all the rainwater accumulates, you stay off that area, way off the curbs as well, and find grip nice and far out wide, like Jean-Baptiste Lehay's just done at Bruxelles corner. He's now dicing for 2nd position in LMP3, having lost the lead to Joop van Uter, but Mathieu Drudy is right on his tail for Euro International.
Yeah, Mathieu is going to be keen to get by, because at the moment Joop van Uter is checking out here. He's 6 seconds up the road and backing up behind the Ultimate Norma, or a train of another 3 or 4 cars there in the murk. They're going to want to get back onto terms with the RRM Sport car if they possibly can.
Again, Mathieu Drudy's car, they're looking slightly more pointy, and it's able to a spin for Jean-Baptiste Lehay from 2nd position in LMP3. He's come back out onto the track as well. Let's hope everybody can react in time. There are 4 waved yellow flags from the marshals, who are super brave there. But obviously massive disappointment down at Ultimate. They qualified so well yesterday after a brilliant performance from Mathieu Lehay. We're running 2nd, and that car is badly damaged now, sitting right in the middle of the track. Car 25 pitting.
It's Matt McMurray.
This is from 14th place in LMP2. And this is an early call, maybe to beat a full course yellow or a safety car, because that car, the 17, is going nowhere quickly. Thankfully, there are tyres on the driver's left out of Lafayette corner, but he started, it didn't touch the white line.
Just broke away from him.
Absolutely. And that was the pressure, wasn't it, from Mathieu Drudy behind. And it's done huge damage all the way down the right-hand side of the car as it swapped ends and slammed into the yellow and red tyre barrier here at Spa. And thankfully, the tyres are 5 or 6 deep there, so tyre wall doing its job. Let's hope Jean-Baptiste Lehay is okay, but there's going to be a safety car, So safety car redeployed rather than a full course yellow, which is going to condense everything again at the head of the order, obviously. Nicolas Jamin had built a 2.5 second lead, and that's going to go completely. That's the other G-Drive car, by the way, sneaking by. Or is it? No, that was Pizzitola, beg your pardon.
That's Pizzitola. There
are 2 G-Drive cars, though, just to remind you, in this race. One run by Graf and the other by TDS. Here's the Nefis by Speed Factory car in LMP3. Car 5 started by Ukrainian driver Alexei Chuklin, and it was, I think, 11th in class. It's dropped a couple of spots now because of a stop on this lap. And here's the 88 car, Pole Sitter, slipping to 2nd place. Still in a good position. Gianluca Roda Senior, taking this opening stint.
So half an hour in, under the safety car for recovery of the stricken Ultimate car, had been sitting 2nd, but under pressure in LMP3, and sadly it was Jean-Baptiste Lehay who, an error, I'm afraid, all by himself, but unlucky, I think. It looked like that shouldn't have been a problem, but whatever that was. A little bit of power, a little bit early, and around it went.
I thought he might have caught the white line on the curb, but actually that rear right was clear of that, so just a bit too much right foot under pressure from Drudy and the rest of them, though. They were all in a long queue. Ross Kaiser, Jan Clary had been making progress for AT Racing. He's up to 4th now with the what we assume is a retirement for the 17 as it's being wheeled away to behind the tyre barrier. So everybody moves up one, effectively. That car was in 2nd place when it crashed.
Now, to explain why the choice of the safety car procedure has come, that will have come principally because we're putting marshals in basically line of fire. So Eduardo Freitas would have wanted the car to be recovered with the maximum safety possible for track intervention staff. They've actually done that remarkably quickly before the entire safety car line has come together. They're now on the Kemmel Straight with the Porsche coming through the gloom. So well done to the marshals. Little bit of debris clear up, but not too much. Most of that had stayed off the track surface. So they'll bring this under control, and my guess is that they'll get this back running pretty quickly, unless they've got a little bit more gravel clear up after the runoff from the high-class racing car a little earlier, which, by the way, is still on pit lane.
Trying to get their first top 2 finish were Ultimate, but it's going to be another non-finish. That's the 2nd of the year, sadly, and they are struggling now for championship points, but the pace is there. And Jean-Baptiste Lehay, brother Mathieu Lehay, and Francois Herriot have proven to be a great force, actually, as a trio. So we wish them well in repairing that car and getting it all set for a month's time at Portimao. 3
of the LMP2 runners opted to put, well, of the leading group opted to pit, and significantly, Felipe Albuquerque has climbed aboard the 22 United Autosports car. I think Phil Hansen was struggling somewhat there with adapting to those conditions, whether or not it's adapting to the tyres in those conditions. So we know he's a very capable young man. Felipe Albuquerque is out there now. Julian Canal has been in and out in the 23 Panis Barthez car. Norman Nato in and out. Drops to 13th position in the Racing Engineering Orica.
It does depend a little bit on how much Phil Hansen has done in wet weather conditions there as well, but regardless of tyre.
But he's not exactly, will not have done very much on the Michelin, so that might just be the point at which the confidence level has fallen off that cliff. We might well hear from him a little later.
So, out of Pouhon corner comes the safety car train. The 55 Ferrari has decided to make an early stop as well. That might be for a driver change too. So, Duncan Cameron started that Spirit of Race car in Duncan's own machine, and he designed that paint job, the dark British Racing green with the silver roof. And now down towards Campus corner goes the field. Nicolas Jamin out front from Andrea Pizzitola. Gustavo Menezes in 3rd position ahead of Nicolas Lapierre for Dragon Speed. Felipe Nasser, who's been making progress in the Cetilar Villorba Corsa car number 47, up to 5th place now. Konstantin Tereshenko really not very far away either. So we've got 4 Oricas leading 2 Dalaras, and then the best Ligiers are currently 7th and 8th, they being United Autosports number 32 car ahead of Hidek Sport of France, and they started with 2 cars. Remember, the 28 pitted very early on though. Paul-Luc Chatin not happy with tyres. Now whether that was a slow puncture, we are not entirely sure, but it looked like both left side tyres changed on the 28. So the 27 is the better placed car now, with Aurélien Panis at the wheel of that, sharing this weekend with Nicolas Menassion, a late driver change, and Eric Maurice, who was always set to be the bronze in that combination.
Yeah, change 2 by the way in the 25 car. Taxon Kim has got aboard the 25, and that stop for car Matt McMurray stepping out. So looking now to burn some of the less experienced driver time. Nico Jamin leads the field behind the safety car. From Andrea Pizzitola, fabulous battle for a lap or 2 between those two to sort that one out. Gustavo Menezes, of course, close right up now. Nicolas Lapierre up to 4th. Felipe Nasri, another man who's been on the move, and winning that battle of the Dalaras with Konstantin Tereshchenko before the safety car was called. Hugo Sadelier is in the better placed of the 2 United Autosports Ligiers. He's at 7th, ahead of Aurélien Panis. The second Ligier in the order, the EDEX Sport car. Jonathan Hershey coming up through the order after that rear row start for both of the Graf cars in the LMP2 class. Another stop, by the way, for the 25.
One side.
And completing the top 10 is James Allen in the second of the Graf cars. It's the engine cover coming off the 25. Not the first time this weekend. In dramatic fashion, Matt McMurray clouting the curbs at Radion. It pushed the wheels up, dislodged the rear bodywork catches, I believe, and sky high went that. It's a rear clip that's been changed, isn't it? They're not losing much time with this, of course, behind the safety car. There's just to give Taxon Kim a little bit more rear bite in these conditions.
At the moment, as far as the championship is concerned, I know we've only had 35 minutes of this race, but G-Drive Racing are in a perfect position, running second, and they need not really concern themselves about Duquesne Engineering, because Duquesne started this round down in 6th position in the championship. It would be, if they can manage it, a first win for Duquesne, but they're too far back to worry about the championship there. It's nicely condensing, though, in GTE, with EB Motors 5th in the standings, out front right now, with Proton second. So as long as they pick up second place, that's good points, but it wouldn't mean that they would seal the championship this weekend. And I think the same goes for LMP3 as well. Points still nicely positioned to take us to Portimao. Let's get some word from the pits though, and Phil Hanson, who's with Charlie George.
Yeah, and down here at United. Phil, we've been used to of late seeing you doing very long stints. You've obviously come in early. Is that to do with the conditions out there?
Yeah, it is. We thought we'd put Philippe out there because there's no saying how long the race is going to go. The conditions are quite changeable, they're quite variable, so right now the biggest thing is visibility. So we thought we'd put Philippe in to try and get him out whilst the track's still quite bad, and if it gets better, then put me out just to maximise his driving in the worst conditions.
Thank you.
Cheers.
The other thing we potentially have to think about is the race doesn't go full distance, and therefore only half points would be awarded. If that is the scenario, then car 24 Racing Engineering has to win, and 26 has to be 9th or lower to take it to Portimao. So a top 8 finish would be enough for G-Drive Racing, such is their advantage. Remember, it's 88 for G-Drive versus 53 for Racing Engineering, so they're already a long way ahead with 3 wins to their name, and it's still likely that it will go the way of Pizzitola, Jean-Eric Verne and Roman Rusinov, but there are still, fingers crossed, 3 hours and 22 minutes to go.
Absolutely. Neat and tidy safety car line. Let's wait and see. We've been told all cars must close the gaps. Indicates to me that they're getting ready to indicate a restart, possibly this time around. Safety car has started another lap. Might be the last. We're 40 minutes in all, but a couple of swift trips around the clock. And so far, the conditions have not gotten in the way of good racing.
No, certainly not. They add an extra element. Just ask Jean-Baptiste Lehay about that. But no, it's not bad enough to prevent us from racing. I think This is wise, though, to continue the safety car period after the incident's been cleared, just again to acclimatise people and to ease them back into a restart. But LMP3 set up perfectly here with the championship leaders first and second in the race. Bear in mind there is currently a tie for points.
I have a slow car exiting D40. I have a slow car on driver's right exiting D4.
Second in the championship in LMP3, Euro International and United Autosports, the number 3 car, tied on points, so they could yet do a bit. Now the number 9 car for AT Racing has ground to a halt. That's the car that Eduardo Freitas has just referred to, and also the number 8 DKR Engineering car being wheeled into the garage.
Jan Clary, who's the driver in that car, the second start for the team this season, have been making his way up the order. Bad news for AT Racing, you're right as well. The bright green car of DKR Engineering came in, fueled it, and the car has been wheeled into the garage. Not a good season so far in the European Le Mans Series.
And that car was brought in by Swiss driver Christian Valio, who is the bronze. He's joined this weekend by Marvin Klein. Klein being Paul Lafargue's replacement at the Barcelona 24 just a couple of weekends ago when Paul Lafargue had that back injury.
Information to the pit lane. I need to snatch a car between T4 and T5. He's on driver's right. Safety car is still on track, and he was instructed to go at full speed.
Anders Fjordbach is back in the pit lane for the second time.
Coming out. He's been in the garage.
I have car 9 stopped on driver's right on the straight between T4 and T5.
So it's going to be a long pit stop for high-class racing. Maybe they're trying to cure the visibility issue and clear the screen, because you reckon it's getting fogged up.
I think he was completely fogged up. No, I think he's just come out the garage. I don't think he's just come in. I think he's just.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's going to be a long pit stop.
Oh yes, indeed.
Because the car already there, and we know how long ago that incident at Bruxelles was for the Dane.
So this is going to be an additional safety car lap, principally for the recovery of the number 9. But again, well-drilled circuit intervention staff. There is a gap in the fence down on the Kemmel Straight on the right-hand side rather. So fingers crossed that can be done quickly.
That was a 15-minute pit stop then for Anders Fjordbach, so you're quite right, they've been in there for a long time and being wheeled out. Need to get some reaction now from Ultimate. Charlie's down there to speak to Mathieu Lehay.
Mathieu, a huge disappointment for you and the team after such a great qualifying. First of all, is Jean-Baptiste okay?
Yeah, Jean-Baptiste is okay. It's really easy to do a mistake in this condition, and sometimes there is a lot of water, sometimes it's become with less and less water. So lap after lap, the track condition is changing, and very easy to do a mistake. But the principle is that he is okay.
That's good news. How difficult is it to get that setup right when you've got these conditions?
It's only you have to bet if it rain a lot or not, and you can adjust the tire pressure. But for sure, there is not the right setup to run and in this condition, because, like I said, condition change lap after lap, and you just have to adjust your driving to stay on track. But it's not easy.
Better luck in Portugal.
Thank you.
It is all about reaction speed, isn't it, in these conditions? And you know, you're not going to be running the ideal setup throughout the whole stint, possibly not for any of it really. And that's when the really good drivers come to the fore, because they are able to make those snap decisions and try and counteract oversteer. Jean-Baptiste Lehay is a very fast silver-graded driver, but not as quick as Mathieu. And those are the tippy-toe stuff that sometimes those people can't necessarily react to. But it was a strange incident because he was keeping off the white lines, he was keeping off the curbs. It was a perfect line really, and then the car just went with very little warning.
Well, they've still got some sense of humour down at Ultimate. Classy stuff, by the way. It would be very easy to show emotion in those circumstances, and Mathieu completely correct in his response to the incident. You can see, by the way, the snatch vehicle has just about reached the gap in the safety barrier that should allow the 9 car to be put into a place of safety. Whether or not that's going to be quick enough to get this safety car in this time, or we require another one, remains to be seen. It's going to be tight.
So no changes in the order, apart from those cars, of course, that have peeled off to make pit stops. And therefore 1 or 2 runners able to gain spots. It's good to see the high-class racing car back out again, and that sustained stop maybe to cure an air conditioning issue or the screen getting fogged up very early on in the stint, and Anders Fjordbach just not able to make the corner at Bruxelles. He was also off at Stavelot.
Remember, we also heard from Phil Hansen the issue around visibility. If you've actually got an issue with visibility inside the car as well as the spray, completely undrivable. So let's wait and see. We might well hear from Anders when he gets out of the car. I'm sure he'll have things to say about that. We are going to go for another safety car lap.
Yes, Anders sharing with just the one other co-driver. It is Dennis Anderson, and they have been co-drivers since their Renault Sport Trophy days. Yep. And now into their second season, or maybe in the third season of the ELMS. It's a different paint. It is a second season. Different paint scheme though that was unveiled at Silverstone due to a sponsorship change. And the DKR engineering car, that's the Norma M30, is wheeled back onto the pit lane apron and is now sent away.
Green, green, green. The colour of the car, not the colour of the lights at the moment, but it's good to see them back in. Torrid time in the LMS, so we're saying a little earlier for DKR engineering, in sharp contrast to a second consecutive championship win in the supporting Michelin Le Mans Cup. That sealed yesterday by Leonard Hugenboom and Jens Pettersson, the team's other Norma M30.
Some LMP3 cars trying to get some stops in early on here, which might not be a bad call. So 360 Racing, who were running third, have just come down pit road
from
fourth. So the third and fourth place cars in LMP3 getting in maybe one of the longest stops that they've got to do.
If that is smart, particularly if they're thinking there might be a possibility that this race doesn't run to full length. Burning that stop now might mean they don't have to do the splash at the end that otherwise would be required.
Yes.
And certainly if we're going to get more safety car action, they could stretch the fueling envelope. So this could be a smart move. We'll find out how smart it is as we get this kind of pendular effect with the LMP3 teams when we see the difference in the strategies between who burns those 2 timed pit stops that they must do through the full race distance. So let's wait and see whether or not Colin Noble and Max Kaiser emerge in a sensible kind of front. It looks to me like Ross Kaiser, minute and 23. Christian Olsen has now climbed aboard to number 7. It's a minute and 26. They are both time stops.
Yes. Yes, so the time
safety car
being...
in this lap. Safety car is coming in this lap.
So 80 seconds, the ruling for the time stops, and those cars back out again. Another car in LMP3 that's already done one of those times is car number 18, the M Racing YMR machine. But safety car then is going to peel off once again. Everybody concertinaing up at the head of the order. 4 Oricas from the 2 Dalaras. The dark blue is the Cetala Villorba Corsa entry. Felipe Nasser, former Formula 1 driver, at the wheel of that car, and he is pursued by Konstantin Tereshenko, 24-year-old Russian. Again, Tereshenko and Henrik Chavez are the 2-driver lineup for AVF by Adrian Valles. So nothing between, and the Konstantin Tereshenko car very nearly overlapping Nasser. Yes. Nothing between these runners then, as they know very definitely how to restart this race. There was some confusion at the end of the first safety car period. Do we need to be 2 abreast or single file? This is the format we're looking for.
It's going to be an interesting restart
green.
here. Itchy trigger fingers and
green.
feet.
No overtaking before the line. No overtaking before the line.
He knows he's safe to that line, and it looks to me like he's played that beautifully.
Although Lapierre very wide indeed into the first bit of the bus stop, and Felipe Nasser had very little option but to draw alongside briefly. He's tucked back into line now, but Lapierre nowhere at the restart.
Let's keep an eye on that. It wasn't the ideal line through the turn either from Lapierre. Is he under pressure here from Felipe Nasser? I think he might be. Nasser looks to the inside. Lapierre should be wise to that. Down the hill, this is going to be an interesting one. Has to tuck in behind. Looks to the outside this time. That would be a gutsy move. That's not going to happen there. Who's going to get the better run up through Erouge and Radion? It looks like it's the Orica.
Great car placement there from the Frenchman in the Dragon Speed car. It just meant that Felipe Nasser could not use that extra speed he carried out of the source. He tried his best to put the Dallara in the best place, but had to tuck in behind. And now that Orica, again, is a bit deep into Le Combe, but it carried good speed down the Kemmel Straight, and the Dallara cannot find an advantage. As now up the inside comes Gustavo Menezes on the championship leader. It's Menezes versus Andrea Pizzitola, but Pizzitola gets good drive. And Le Combe, he's gone wide at Bruxelles. Bruxelles corner is the undoing maybe for Pizzitola. Again, though, he can, well, that's possibly track limits out there.
Well,
tremendous speed, though, out of the corner, and Gustavo Menezes says, well, I'll try it the very next one then.
Well, it's every line possible, and some that don't look as if they should be at the moment through the middle parts of this track. But Pizzitola somehow retains second position there. Gustavo Menezes, discretion the better part of valour, I think, a couple of occasions there. Wasn't quite sure where the 26 car was going to re-emerge. He now goes wide and way wide and off track. There's not a lot of grip out there, is there?
No, that was into the first bit of Le Fagnac corner. He's tidied things up through the second sequence there, and now into Campus corner. The short straight towards Curve Paul Frere, and there's lots of sideways moments for mainly Menezes, so he had to address that oversteer in car 31. That means he doesn't get the good exit that he wanted out of Curve Paul Frere, and towards Blanchimont I don't think Pizzitola's going to be under pressure. Nicolas Lapierre has settled down now and ridden the storm as far as Felipe Nasser was concerned.
Skill level required here high, and car 8 reported to the stewards. That is the DKR car, isn't it? Perhaps leaving the pit lane while the exit line was red. Light was red. That's going to be a heavy penalty if that happened.
50 minutes done in the race. Ordinarily we would be thinking about LMP2 stops about 10 minutes ago, but obviously the safety car has altered the strategy. The Nefis by Speed Factory LMP3 car trying to draw alongside, I think it's still Nick Johnson at the wheel of the 83, yes, and that car now up to 4th position, the Krone Green Racing Ferrari 488. So in GTE it is EB Motors Porsche leading the 2 Proton Competition Porsches, and then the best Ferrari is number 83, side by side here with the United Autosports car being overtaken by the number 40 machine, and through it goes. 39 rather. There's the G-Drive coloured Graf car then.
No, the other one.
So it was the 40.
No, 40 is the G-Drive. Go on, coming together. We just mentioned Nick Johnson, the Nefis by Speed Factory car, and a bit of a kerfuffle into La Source. Both go halfway around. The LMP3 car fires up more quickly than the Ferrari. So no, I think that was the 39
yeah, you're
car.
right. Jonathan Hershey getting by Hugo de Sadelier, and Philippe Albuquerque not very far away either. Enric Chavez goes wide at Bruxelles, so that's the second of the Dallaras in the sequence, and it is, sorry, not Chavez, Tereshenko rather, who started the car, and Chavez still to come. So the 30 car is in 6th position. Aurelien Palace really not very far away either for Hedex Sport, and the debris on the track presumably has been left by the incident at La Source corner, and that was the Ferrari clattering into the back of the Nefis by Speed Factory car. However, some inconsiderate driving really from the number 5.
There's nowhere for the Ferrari to go. It was already over to the far left-hand side. There was nowhere for Nick Johnson to go. It was the Ligier cutting across to get his ideal line into the corner without seeing that the 83 car was where he needed to be.
Well, you've got to bear in mind when you drive an LMP3 car, it can stop far more readily than a Ferrari, which is big heavy GT cars. So it's all very well pulling into line for your racing line, having pulled off the overtake, but then you hit the brakes at your usual point and the guy behind can't stop. That was Nick Johnson. It was Alexei Chuklin driving the number 5 car, and a very clumsy incident is the result. There's the number 19 M Racing YMR LMP3 car, and that is currently 3rd in the order. David Drew battling away with a bit of a hero from yesterday's Michelin Le Mans Cup race, Antonin Borger. Again, with cool racing colours, it's the number 4 car today rather than 24 yesterday. And Borger, who celebrated a birthday prior to this weekend, really applying the pressure now to the Van Muller racing car.
Yeah, and Cool Racing, by the way, one of 3 teams on this LMP3 grid that have announced plans to step up to LMP2 next season. They've obtained an Orica for the 2019 European Le Mans Series Cool Racing. They will join RLRM Sports and the Inter-Europol team, Polish flag team with Eligier, RM Sport with the newly acquired X-Mana Orica, joining the increasing number of LMP2 takers in this championship. One heck of a grid next year, Johnny Palmer.
Pretty good this year, in fairness, but yeah, if we can build on this even more, then that's fantastic. The calendar was announced on Friday with the 2019 European Le Mans Series. No visit to Austria next year. It is replaced instead at the same time of year in July with a trip to Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona. So another Grade 1 Formula 1 track, and a nice wide circuit as well will offer a very different challenge from that of the Red Bull Ring. Nose to tail for second and third positions, with Andrea Pizzitola still providing stout defence to Gustavo Menezes, and Pizzitola loving these high, wide lines, and spinning out there from lower down in the LMP3 ranks is the number 12 car. Say lower down.
It's the more or less the last runner undelayed. Then the 12 car had joined the back of the safety car queue, so should have time to recover that. A bit of debris there on track.
I think that's from the Krone Ferrari.
I think that's what it was.
Pizzitola off the road and in the gravel, and in avoidance of James Dayson. So it's Menezes who's able to make the corner and duck by a broadside car number 12. I think Pizzitola went off even before he saw that wayward car, though.
I think he went off, possibly he was trying to take his wide line, and possibly then saw the yellow flag. But either way, a miscalculation. I think he's lost a further place, because I'm pretty certain the Lapierre and Nasser have gone by as well.
So that was second and third. So Menezes then gains the spot. He's now up to second place on the road, and Nicolas Lapierre has also managed to sneak through in the Dragon Speed number 21. It's a deliberate line, isn't it, into the bus-stop chicane from the Frenchman. Pizzitola in car 26 tucked in behind, and then Felipe Nasser in the best of the Dalaras ahead of Konstantin Tereshenko for AVF. Aurelian Panis, I'm sure, is reading these guys in as well. There's only 2 seconds between Tereshenko and Panis in the EDEX Sport car, and very wide indeed at La Source corner. That's deliberate from Lapierre, although what's the exit speed like? I guess marginally better than Pizzitola as they work their way down the hill towards Eau Rouge.
Remember, Pizzitola is the silver ranked driver in the G-Drive squad. That's the depth of talent they've actually got. So the Krone Racing car, by the way, it's in the garage and not looking good. We'll come to that, I'm sure, pretty soon. Cracking stuff in LMP2. Small margins here with big consequences. Pizzitola, the latest man to find that one out. He's under pressure now from Felipe Nasser. And the Dallara all over the back of the orange championship leader. These are twitchy times for the championship leaders.
Certainly so, and they might be banging on half points here, because it means they only have to finish in the top 8. But a top 2 finish would do it, even if Racing Engineering win the race. Something they look unlikely to do at the moment, because Racing Engineering second in the championship, down in 12th place in this race. Norman Nato, for whatever reason, is struggling in these conditions, and Nato, a very swift driver normally, not quite as quick as Olivier Pla, his co-driver, but faster than Paul Petit, and Nato still getting used to these cars, particularly in the wet conditions, of course. Driver changes not very far away in LMP2. We've nearly reached an hour here as Felipe Nasser drifts his car through the first bit of La Fagna. That was fun to watch. The Cetilar Villorba Corsa car going very fast indeed with the 2. Oh, Pizzitola again, same mistake, and that's 2 laps running. He's off in the gravel, and more places lost. The 2 Dalaras are able to get by Nasser and Tereshenko and Panis and Jonathan Hershey and Hugo de Sadalier and Philippe Albuquerque. He's going to re-emerge down in 11th position.
Oh dear. Well, that one must have, well, absolutely wasn't it. He's not quite lost out to Hugo de Sadalier yet. Well, the adrenaline is going to be pumping, isn't it, here? Just calm head required now for Andrea Pizzitola, because all of a sudden the numbers change.
Yeah, and that car is now 13th position in LMP2. So just trying to count up. Nasser is 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. I think it's 9 places lost by car 26. And over the line it goes. You're right, sandwiched between Hugo de Sadalier and Philippe Albuquerque now. So actually, 9th place for Andrea Pizzitola. The order was slightly mixed up through the second sector split, but order is resumed at the end of the lap.
Now, is this just that the rain is getting heavier? Because he was taking the same line that worked for him early in the race. It simply didn't work that last time. He tried it again, and it fundamentally didn't work the third time. So I think it may well be that he's just trying to repeat the wide line that he'd seen successful for other people and himself, and it just was not there.
Felipe Nasser taking lots of curb through that second bit of Le Com, and the car all of a sudden bumped heavily to the right. He's kept it on the road, but needed to react to that because the tyre wall's very close to the edge of the track to driver's right at Le Com corner. Just the one headlight working for David Drew, who is 4th in LMP3 for M Racing YMR. It's a class that's led by Joop van Uitert, who's doing a tremendous job, nearly 4 seconds clear now of Antonin Borger, who's got ahead of Drew and ahead of Mattia Drudi. So it is Van Uitert in car 15, Borger in car 4, second now in LMP3, ahead of Drudi and Drew. And there's the 25 going for a spin. Was that as a result of contact?
No, I think he did it all because he was a little ragged coming into the turn, so not a lot of grip visible there. Takton Kim aboard the car now and struggled to get the car stopped in time for the bus stop.
32nd position for car 25 and 15th in class.
Now, Van Uitert's advantage, by the way, was about 5.8 seconds before the safety car. He built that back up to 4 seconds. Under pressure again, though, from Antonin Borger is bettering him for lap time right now. That one's developing quite nicely. Meantime, by the way, Nico Jamin is, 6.7 seconds to the good, while everybody behind him is just deciding to have a bit of a scrap.
And we've done an hour, and it's not been the easiest hour of the season, certainly. 3 more to go, and these conditions are just about raceable, but they don't have to take some skill to get your car around the 7-kilometre circuit. There are different lines possible, but as Andrea Pizzitola has found out, that wide line into Campus Corner, you cannot run any longer, and Pizzitola is going to pit at the end of lap 20.
So this is going to be about right for a P2 car on a full fuel stint in these conditions. Save a bit of fuel in these conditions, and particularly the safety cars, of course. But away it goes. I think it is going to be a driver change as well. I'm sure Andrea Pizzitola is going to be quite relieved to get out of that. That looks to me it's actually getting aboard.
Will either be Jean-Eric Verne.
I think it's Verne getting aboard the car.
Or it'll be their co-driver Roman Rusinov.
But I think I've just seen Roman Rusinov on the pit wall.
It seems sensible to put the Platinum driver out in these conditions, who should be able to deal with them the best. And he was a sight to behold in qualifying yesterday. Amazingly, a first pole of the year for the clear championship leaders. And that car is sent on its way again. We're utilising the Grand Prix pit lane here on the flat, although the endurance pit lane has been used this weekend by the Michelin Le Mans Cup cars, at least where their garages were, and they pitted in yesterday's race in the Grand Prix pit lane. 2 United Autosports Ligiers have been running together. One of them, though, now has broken away from the other. So Hugo de Sadalier is the better placed of the two, 7th. Felipe Albuquerque is 9th, and he is in turn pursued by Julien Canal in the number 23 Panes Barthes Competition Ligier.
P3, meanwhile, as we watch the P2 middle ranking cars coming through the gloom, Van Uitert is beginning to come under pressure from Antonin Borger. Drudi not that far away either, and Scott Andrews in a very strong 4th. Those 4, well, pulling away a little. That's Jean-Eric Verne has come out in the middle of that lot with David Drew and Kuba Shmosky not a million miles away either. So top 6 pretty well placed for an LMP3 battle to savour in some little time.
Yes, and Jean-Eric Verne's going to have to be careful as he picks his way through that highly intense area of the race. Race leader down pit road along that pit lane entry route that runs basically along a cliff edge. You can't tell that because of the concrete wall to driver's right. And at the end of lap 21 then, Nicolas Jamin coming in. A really good stint from the 22-year-old Frenchman. And now we'll find out whether he's going to hand to Pierre Rag or Nelson Panzutici, or of course the option is there for him to stay on board. But The issue is that Pierre Rag needs to do the lion's share of this race, being the silver graded driver, and it's important that they get sufficient drive time in.
Everybody's in top 5 already. Menezes, Lapierre, Nasra, Tereshchenko have all followed down pit lane. It's going to get very busy down there over the next few moments. Also in the 32 United Autosports car in the hands of Hugo Sadler. Through to the lead for the moment, by the way, goes Aurélien Panis on his LMP2 debut. The EDEC Sport 27 Ligier does owe us that stop, but will go through to take the lead. Felipe Albuquerque is into second position, just behind Panis. So, and with Julien Canal third, having stopped as well earlier. At the moment, it's a Ligier 1-2-3.
Yeah, Aurélien Panis dovetailing then a one-off visit, possibly. Maybe he's going to do Portimao as well in the ELMS, but his priority this year has been the World TCR Championship. He raced in touring cars for the last year and this, and come out of single-seaters from 2016 when he did some Formula V8 3.5 racing with Arden Motorsport. Very, very deep line indeed for Aurélien Panis, leading the race then. That was at Bruxelles corner, and right behind him is Philippe Albuquerque.
He's going to be watching big wiggle as well there from Panis aboard the EDEC car, and a bit of a tail slide from Albuquerque. Albuquerque looking to get alongside and see what he can do about grabbing the lead here, using the opportunity he's got. The earlier stop enforced by difficulties for Phil Hansen with visibility, but Albuquerque is going to be looking to make good his escape.
So Albuquerque second, eyeing the lead. He has behind him Julien Canal, who's doing pretty well as well, to stay within 9/10 of a second, considering Julien is a silver rated driver, but lots of experience behind the wheel of an LMP2 car. Le Mans resident and a regular appearer in that race. Fourth position for Racing Engineering, so the car that's second in the championship, back up maybe into the running, but obviously cars that have pitted ahead of it give that a slightly false position. And there's now going to be a drive-through penalty for the Nefis by Speed Factory car from LMP3, and that is because of causing a collision with car 83 at La Source. That was when Nick Johnson had little option but to run into the back of Alexei Chuklin. This incident here, and I mean, Johnson stayed so far over to the left there, he was almost off the track. Absolutely. To try and avoid car 5, and contact was inevitable. Yeah,
and the 83, by the way, still in the pit garage. In comes the 27 from the lead, so into the lead of the race is Felipe Albuquerque in the 22 United Autosports car.
So Albuquerque currently now leading the way from Julien Canal, but what about Andrea Pizzitolo, who's had some entertaining last few laps off in the gravel down the bottom end of the circuit? He's catching up now with Charlie.
Andrea, a very difficult stint for you. We saw you make the same mistake a couple of times. We know the conditions are bad. Is there anything else at play here, though?
Yeah, the conditions were terrible, but not in terms of track. But just for us to find the grip was so difficult. It was okay at the beginning of the race, and then I started to really struggle with the front tires. And the frustrating part is, I did the same mistake 2 times, but I was pushing less and less every lap, trying to stay on track because all the others were so easy. So it's really frustrating. Obviously, we are lucky because we didn't touch the wall. We will make some adjustment on the tires, drive, and see what happens on track.
Obviously, you're here as championship leaders. The goal was to stay out of trouble. Have you adjusted the strategy now?
We've done a driver change now. That was not really the plan, but Jeff went to the car, tried to see what he thinks. But I'm really frustrated about that because the goal was really to stay on track, and I went out like 2 times, but I was not even pushing. I was just suffering, So we'll try to stay head up and push until the end of the race.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff, the man he mentions, of course, Jean-Eric Verne, who's taken over the 26 car. And I was talking about front tyre temperature in these conditions when the ambient is low. And obviously these all being rear-wheel drive cars, very difficult to keep the temperature in the front Dunlops or Michelins, depending on which Prototype 2 car you're driving. And interesting, isn't it? I mean, he adjusted his speed down at Campus Corner and still went off.
So you can see the frustration there, and I think struggling to be polite about the situation as well, but doing a great and professional job there. But you can see it in his face, couldn't you? Gutted that actually he's been at the wheel when it's caused the team difficulties they hoped they wouldn't have. They were looking to effectively a fast cruise to a championship win here, if at all possible, and that's now in some doubt. But the car is still out there, still lapping quickly. 9th position at the moment for Jean-Eric Verne, and lots more cards to play in this game of, well, automotive gin rummy. Correct. You are, by the way, completely correct. Absolutely a correct decision to penalise number 5. Big damage to the 83, and I think they're done. Maybe,
yeah. The work is taking place down at Crone Racing, but it's not hurried. I think it's fair to say. LMP3. Tremendously entertaining, as it usually is, and Joop van Uitert in car number 15 under stern pressure here. Antonin Borgen really not very far away. There is an LMP2 car in there to unlap itself. That's Wayne Boyd, the Whirler number 32, and Antonin Borger is the next car on the road, car number 4, really turning on the style as he did yesterday. Mathieu Drudy in car number 11 is third, ahead of Scott Andrews and David Drew. So the number 2 car on the rise as well. Andrews coming in late in the day to replace an ill Sean Rahal, too ill to make the flight from the United States here to Belgium. We've mentioned about the incident then involving cars 5 and 83. The 83 is the Crone Racing Ferrari, and driving that, Nick Johnson, who's now chatting to Charlie George down in the garage for us.
Well, Nick, we didn't want to see you out of the car at this point. A very frustrating incident for the Crone there.
Yeah, it's very frustrating because we actually had a very good race going there, and unfortunately one of the P3 cars, decided to just kind of come out right in front of me in the braking zone. And as we talk about all the time in the driver's briefing and stuff, that the prototypes just can stop much better than we can do. And unfortunately, he didn't look in his mirrors, I guess, and I just had no chance to stop in the wet.
Big damage to the car?
Yeah, it's enough to not, no point to kind of repair it here today, but no big deal, but enough to not be able to carry on.
Bad luck, thank you.
Thank you.
Nick Johnson from Crone Racing, and it means we're not going to see Tracy Crone, and we're not going to see Andrea Pizzitola. That's a lot of damage.
Bertolini, it is a lot of damage. It probably looks rather worse than it is. Deconstructed, of course, to see where the root of the problem is, but he's quite right. It's the time it's going to take to do those niggly jobs on a corner. We're going to see it again here. Here comes the 5 from the middle of the track, right over to the left-hand side, in exactly the place where the 83 car was, and that was not the finest day of the number 5, was it?
And the 5 is back out again. Alexei Chuklin now on an out lap. And you're right, Andrea Bertolini, rather. We're talking a lot about Pizzitola as we get a change of lead in LMP3. If Antonin Borger can hang on to it on the exit, he can't at Pouon, and that means that Joop van Uitert is back in front again. So a brief lead change in the middle part of Pouon, and we're back to the same order once more.
Will these two be battling next year in LMP2? Who knows? These two of the 3 teams we know are stepping up. But all good stuff. RLRM Sport from Cool Racing, not a million miles behind, just 2 or 3 seconds back, and this will help the push from the Euro International number 11 to Mathieu Drudy. Scott Andrews right with Drudy as well, so the top 4 positions pretty tightly spaced at the moment. There you go, they are the top 4. It's not 2 seconds anymore, is it? That's tense.
Yes, just over a tenth of a second between Drudy and Andrews. David Drew is 8 seconds further back. It's all about the top 4 in LMP3 right now, and the rain is often a real leveller, but I'm not surprised these 4 names have risen to the surface somehow.
It's not always been the case that's been Ligier's day in LMP2 or LMP3. At the moment it is in both. It's a slightly different situation with different pit stop strategies. Scott Andrews there trying a very unconventional set of lines, which didn't add up to a geometrical figure for him, I'm afraid, so he's got to drop back a little.
Well, the gap was there to throw one up the outside, and unfortunately then that compromised his route through the second part of the bus stop and struggles down the main straight. He'll be able to close that gap back up again, I'm sure, as they motor their way through Eau Rouge, Roundillon and down the Kenmore Straight. So 1, 2, 3, 4 all in shot there are the leaders in LMP3, and there's now a stop-go penalty for car number 8, which is the DKR Engineering LMP3 car, for not respecting that red light at pit lane exit. We mentioned that was under investigation. Meanwhile, car 26 for Jean-Eric Verne, the championship leader, off the road again. This is at Le Combe corner.
Well, he's off the road there, and just ahead of him, also just off the road, was Konstantin Tereshchenko in the AVF Barrett-Valles car. Had gone wide into the first element of Le Combe and couldn't keep it quite on the well, relatively grey stuff. The grey stuff with a shiny surface at the moment does look horrible in terms of those conditions out there, and they are getting worse.
So Jean-Eric Verne setting his sights on Jonathan Hershey with the extra bodywork on that car, or the bodywork doesn't quite tally with the usual livery, because that was badly damaged earlier on in the weekend. So it's running with a black nose, as is the number 40 car from the same team. Tereshchenko a little bit wide into Campers corner, and in the queue then, as I say, Hershey, Verne and Felipe Nasser is a bit further down the road.
Nasser and Verne.
He's there as well, I beg your pardon.
Nasser and Verne, of course, know all about each other in their previous careers. This will be an interesting battle. Maria Delara will not be wanting to let the championship leader ahead here, or get away rather here.
7th, 8th, 9th and 10th in LMP2 then all together. The headlights have been turned off for Jean-Eric Verne. He's still sort of got the side lights on, and that means that people can't necessarily spot where he is in the spray. And around the outside there, Jean-Eric Verne fashioned himself an inside line into the second bit of the bus stop, and I reckon that will see the number 26 car up a place. And as they cross the line, 26 actually gunning now for 7th position to get ahead of Tereshchenko. Apart from Jean-Eric Verne forgot to turn right at La Source. I'm sure he was both feet on the middle pedal there to try and slow it down sufficiently, and they've got back through.
It didn't look that dramatic a moment, did it? But it had dramatic consequences, because from battling away as he was coming into the end of that lap for what was that for 7th place, he's now battling, he's now tumbled back down to 10th.
And the Dragon Speed car, started by Nicolas Lapierre, now driven by Ben Hanley, is also in this queue. And Hanley trying to find a way by Jean-Eric Verne as well in the Orica. So we've got 2 Delaras in this battle and 3 Oricas, Hershey, Verne and Hanley, all circulating together and heading out of La Source corner with, Le Combe corner rather, the sequence of right, left and right, and then into Bruxelles. Very different lines being utilised by pretty much all 5 cars. 2 3/4 hours to go.
I'm sure Andrea Pizzitola is resisting the temptation to push the radio button and say, I told you it was slippy. And it is mighty slippy.
Absolutely.
Back to LMP3 action. This is the lead pair, followed by the dueling pair for 3rd position.
I mean, we know how good Andrea Pizzitola is, and generally Jean-Eric Verne can find the extra few tenths, but it just shows that, I mean, nobody really can master these conditions. They're changing probably every lap. Although Antonin Borger, I mean, he's been on form for 2 days running here now, and he's gunning for the race lead in LMP3. Jop van Uter doesn't have the same sort of speed as Antonin Borger, whose car is a little bit more manoeuvrable, it would seem. He's flashing the lights, trying to distract the Dutchman in any way that he can. But Borger still can't find a way through. He managed it at this corner a couple of laps ago, only for Jop van Uter to return the favour on the exit of Pouhon, and they stay 1st and 2nd in LMP3 for the time being. Mattia Drudi is 3rd in that category, ahead of Scott Andrews for United, and then 6 seconds further back, David Drew for the M Racing car.
Cracking stuff here.
LMP3 sensibly going way off the track at Blanchimont to allow these 4 cars through, and Jean-Eric Verne again that from a long way back.
Going to work. No, got to give that back, Jean-Eric. Got to give that back.
He's missed the second bit of the bus stop chicane, and I'm sure he will allow those cars to overtake once again.
2 positions taken off track, and they must be given back up. It looked under braking as if there was no chance that was going to happen.
Yeah. As the 3rd and 4th place cars, Scott Andrews ahead of Mathieu Drudy, head through the left-hander at Blanchimont, and this time, yes, Jean-Eric Verne is behind those 2 cars that he overtook, so has resumed position into Eau Rouge, up the hill, through Radion corner, and it is 39 in 8th position, driven by Jonathan Hershey, ahead of Konstantin Tereshchenko Jean-Eric Verne and Ben Hanley.
Ben Hanley looking for a way by Jean-Eric Verne as they came down the Kemmel Straight. Has he got enough there? Oh, there was that contact. It was contact side to side between the two Oricas into the braking zone. Ben Hanley right over the left-hand side. Jean-Eric Verne moving across to cover. I'm pretty certain I saw contact with Hanley having to take briefly to the grass and then the escape road to keep the car on the track.
But via the escape road, Ben Hanley has slotted in just ahead of Jean-Eric Verne. So what happens now? Does Hanley give that place back again? He has done. So they again resume their positions. This is all playing nicely into Jonathan Hershey's hands because he's able to stretch away from this trio who are fighting over 9th, 10th and 11th places.
This is basically 21st century medieval jousting at this point between those two. It's instead of a Lancer piece, they've got a 600 horsepower Gibson. Great stuff.
And they head now out of Pouhon corner, and these conditions nobody really can get on top of, but it's a delight to watch, particularly when the cars are at all angles and can be recovered. Now, out of these pictures, away from these pictures, we have had a lead change in LMP3 with Antonin Borger finally able to get ahead of Joop van Uitert and opening up a 1.6 second gap indeed. So Antonin Borger, the man who holds dual nationality, both French and Swiss, sharing that car with Alexandre Coigny as he did yesterday. Now out front, Coigny won't be able to offer the same sort of speed, but that's the thing we love about LMP3 racing and P2 as well, is the difference in drivers.
Yeah, got a quick message from none other than 2016 LMP3 champion Alex Brundle telling me that lead change has just happened. Good afternoon, Alex. You're more than welcome to join us this afternoon. I bet you're probably preferring sitting watching this than sitting in a garage in the gloom watching it from trackside, but I'm sure we'll be seeing you back soon at the wheel. In fact, I know we will, but there you go.
Waiting for another opportunity to commentate with you, I think, as well, as he did at Monza earlier on in the year.
He couldn't wait for you to actually have the clashing thing. He was
absolutely. Well, welcome back into the commentary box as well, just as soon as he's needed. Putting me out of work. Down the hill then, out of La Source, it goes the battle for just outside the top 6. It's still Tereschenko ahead of Ben Hanley. This is the battle for 10th and 11th places. On to lap 28 we go. And the gap at the head of the order, by the way, is 5.1 seconds between Portuguese Philippe Albuquerque and Frenchman Julien Canal. That's United Autosports against Panis Barthès Competition. And Ligier's that struggled in the early stages of this race now, 1 and 2, as Ben Hanley comes from a long way back to put a move on Konstantin Tereschenko. And as long as he's neat and tidy on the exit of Le Com,
and he is,
that is confirmed. So Dragon Speed is now up to, where in the order, 10th position.
And goes wide again. It's all sorts of unconventional lines, trying to find the grip wherever it might be. Here is the move, meanwhile, for the lead change in LMP3. That was almost exactly the same point that Andrea Pizzitola struggled.
Yes.
Joop van Uitert again finding there wasn't quite the grip there he hoped for. It was just enough for Borger to find a way through, and this time it's Konstantin Tereschenko through Pouhon, again finding there not enough grip, having to drop, get off the power and drop back a little from Ben Hanley, getting away now in the Dragon Speed car, trying to set off in pursuit of Jean-Eric Verne.
And the Jean-Eric Verne car is running in 9th position. They'll be paying close attention to where Racing Engineering are as well, being second in the championship. Norman Nato maybe has found a little bit more speed in that car. I wonder whether they did a tyre pressure adjustment, because on this lap Nato has done the fastest first sector for that car, and for him indeed, because we haven't seen another driver at the wheel of 24 just yet. Olivier Pla and Paul Petit to come.
But Nato is right with Julien Canal in a battle for second now, so 2 Ligiers to 4. Is it going to stay that way to the end of this lap? Because Norman Nato, second ball of light in that mist coming into Les Combes, is on terms now with the Panis Barthès Ligier. 2 Michelin shod Ligiers, followed by the Dunlop shod Orica, and not far behind is the Edec Sports Orica of Paul-Lip Chatin. So Albuquerque from Canal, Nato and Chatin, they are the top 4, with Nico Jamin a little way further back, about 10 seconds back from that group in the previous race leading Duquesne Engineering car.
there is Natto then in the traditional racing engineering colours. Alfonso de Bourbon, the team manager, who is a real character in the paddock and keen to start a sustained run for racing engineering in this type of racing, we reckon, which is great to see. And it's a very different top three then from how we started this race, but various different cars now on different strategies, obviously because of the sustained safety car period. Some cars pitting during that, others not. And Edex Sport, number 28, actually made 2 stops now. Paulo Chatin still at the wheel of that Edex Sport Orica, but it's running in 4th position.
And also, by the way, in LMP3, that lead change we saw, Anthony Borga ahead of Yip van Uterp. Scott Andrews is now hauling, and having gone past Mattia Drudi for 3rd position, is now closing on Yip van Uterp. The Dutchman is going to be under some pressure here. Has to take the inside line, goes by the 25 LMP2 Ligier, attempting to put some space between him and the number 2 United Autosports car. These cars still to pit, remember. It's an indication of just how much less fuel these cars are using in these conditions. Normally we'll pit around the hour. Well, we're an hour and 25 minutes in now.
Yeah, because of a much lighter right foot, obviously, under the safety cars, but also just to do a regular lap time, you've got to be so careful. Here then from 3rd position on the road, Norman Natto, fuel going in, remember fuel and tyres and driver change can all be done at the same time these days. It ends up being a much quicker pit stop, and we've seen cars towards the sharp end of the order doing their pit stop from in to out in just 45 seconds. That looked to be very clean indeed.
But this is one of the cars that split their strategy, came in early under the first caution period. It's worked in the second phase of this race. It's 26, a lot of pressure there from the 39. Is that just that's a positional change, isn't it? I apologise. That is Jean-Eric Verne going ahead of Jonathan Hershey. So up to 7th position now. As the racing engineering car tumbles down the order with that stop.
Over Radion goes that battle, and the race lead on lap 30 is held by Philippe Albuquerque by now nearly 14 seconds over Julien Canal. Cool Racing and Antonin Borger lead LMP3 by 2 seconds ahead of Joop van Uterp, Scott Andrews, who's now 3rd, and Mattia Drudi. And the first of the LMP3 pit stoppers is the race leader, Antonin Borger. So we've had LMP3 cars pit further down the order, of course, and we mustn't lose sight of those, because some could be in a very good position having pitted under the safety car, and we won't realise that until later on in the race. But a couple peeling off on this lap, including the LMP3 race leader, but also David Druin, number 19, and Kuba Schmachowski. GTEs rather side by side down towards Eau Rouge, and that was the 55 Ferrari.
Duncan Cameron
making a move on Christian Reed.
That's been around for a while, that little battle. Duncan's been just eyeing out where the possibilities might come. And all of a sudden, pit lane is pretty busy with LMP3 cars, as well as the race leader, Felipe Albuquerque, on pit lane now. That would be about right. Came in at the same time as the racing engineering car.
Yeah. And
again, the order will be shuffled.
So Jean-Eric Verne having taken over the championship leading G-Drive car, now up to 7th position. May well gain a position on this lap as well because of the stopping 22 United Autosports car. But this bank of P2 cars then that are on a more traditional strategy, having not stopped in the safety car period.
This is Verne, by the way, now with Ryan Cullen, who's now aboard the number 31 APR Rebellion car. This is a battle for 6th. Tries to the outside. It's not going to work quite there. Goes to the inside. Oh, he hit. I think he did. He hit the Proton car in trying to get the inside. Is he going to be collected? Oh dear, oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. That all started on the braking zone for the bus stop chicane.
Which Proton Porsche is it though? 77 or 88?
Watch again. Look at the second prototype car. Cuts the inside. Hits the 88, I think. That spins across the grass helpless. Tags not the car that hit him, but the car that had been ahead, who, by the way, just lightly tags the rear of the 26. The second element's a 77 car.
77 car, so not the championship leader, but Christian Ried and the very, very damaged Porsche is now stopping immediately. Thankfully, he was able to make the pit lane and didn't have to do a complete lap, so therefore 7 kilometres. And that incident at turn 18 is obviously under investigation.
And a lot of debris.
But the other thing is, it was potentially car 26 that started all of that.
Yep.
And that's the championship leader really looking for a quiet race here, and all of a sudden that whole incident is going to be looked at.
Yeah, that looked to me as they came down towards the bus stop through the spray. Jean-Eric Verne initially looked to the outside. I think that was a dummy, then went to the inside. Driver Christian Ried is furious.
Well, not really a surprise, frankly, because he was going about his own business.
I think he's heading for race control.
And the 77 car started second on the grid after a really good qualifying yesterday, and 77 obviously eyeing up second place in the championship, if not a championship win. And they might have even been on course for a race win here at Spa. That's Christian Ried marching through the garage, very, very unhappy indeed.
Yeah. And I would count for about 3,500, Charlie, before you're going to have a chat with Christian. The winner this year, remember.
There was contact between 26 and 77, and the 77 comes back across the road at the bus stop, and the real, well, innocent party, yes, 77, but somebody completely minding his own business there.
It's Ryan Cullen.
Was the Ryan Cullen in the 31 car, who has had to now limp around this lap because he was already past the pit lane entry route.
Well, unsurprisingly, that incident is under investigation. It wasn't the finest moment, I'm afraid, for Jean-Eric Verne. Yes, he was looking to get onto terms with the car ahead, but in those conditions, he was overtaking a GT car. If you hadn't seen him, it's only because the GT car was in a blind spot caused by the car he was trying to overtake. But either way, it was the move from Jean-Eric Verne that caused the problems for 2 other cars, including the car that he was trying to overtake.
Yeah, and Ryan Cullen, who is limping round, as I say, now at the wheel of car 31. It's taken him 70 seconds to get through the first sector, when that normally takes 40.
Because he missed the pit in. That's
what. Yes, exactly. And therefore,
no rear downforce at all for that car.
And both legality panels will need to be addressed as well. Hopefully a whole new rear deck section should cure that, but Ryan Cullen deserves massive credit for getting that car round to the pit lane as quickly as possible without causing any further damage. But that was the benefit for Christian Ried. He hadn't passed the pit lane entry route, whereas Ryan Cullen had.
Well, Jean-Eric Verne, by the way, at the moment is 3rd position. With other cars around him. The Panis Bartas competition car now, Will Stevens aboard, having just stopped with Julian Canal from 2nd position. Trouble again for the number 5 car, and again it's at La Source, this time involved with one of the Inter-Europol cars. That is the 13, the better placed of the 2. What happened here? That was the Polish flag car actually initially involved. I think tagged Colin Noble, and then this time the 5 car entirely the innocent party, a bit of a nudge to the rear. So that was the 13 and the 7 getting together.
Christian Olsen now at the wheel of the 7 car,
and that was actually 4 positions. Martin Hipper aboard the 13, Christian Olsen aboard the number 7. The kerfuffle at La Source, then coming round, also for position, by the way, Mr. Chucklin this time. Well, a bit of a nudge on the rear of the number 13. Into the pits comes the 66 car. This from 4th position. Liam Griffin brings the car in. So driver change there too.
Yeah, so Liam out, and well, we'll wait to see who's clambering on board. It could be Miguel Molina, or it could be Alex McDowell.
That looks to me that I think that's Miguel's helmet.
Okay. The Spaniard finishing the Silverstone race a month ago, really unsure where he was going to be in the standings because of several in-race penalties. Jean-Eric Verne now overlapping one of the United Autosports cars through Blanchimont, and the showroom condition Porsche from Proton, number 88, heading through that sequence of corners as well. Now we've seen the G-Drive car trip over a Proton Porsche a couple of laps ago. This time it's a much cleaner overtake for Jean-Eric Verne. And
which United Autosports car? Oh, it's a P3 car rather.
P3, so either the 2 or the 3 about to cross the line. And there's some debris reported at La Source corner. That will be from the incident that involved Martin Hipper, who is wide again at Bruxelles corner. That might be to do with the damage on the rear left corner, and the bullet, the legality panel on the rear left, will have to be sorted out during the next pit stop, because that carries a high intensity rain light and is only being held on by cables, it looks like right now. 88 is in. This is the race and championship leader. Meanwhile, what happened down at
the 25
Bruxelles?
car, and that doesn't look to be steering particularly well. Is that just under braking with lack of grip?
Mark Patterson, the American driver, is at the wheel of that, although South African born. And we've seen plenty of cars take that line at Bruxelles, either through choice or because they literally cannot get the thing stopped downhill, and it's massively downhill into that braking area. Jean-Eric Verne squirming around for grip at Les Combes on this, the 33rd lap then for car 26, which is a little down the order, third position, but that might unravel to be further down than that, with again pit stop strategies off kilter now between certain teams. Euro International LMP3 car being lapped, driven by James Dayson, but the other Euro International car a far better place. Kay van Berlo now taking that car over, the 17-year-old from the Netherlands, 6th position for car 11, and the class is led by Scott Andrews, who has already been in for a stop, and that's a little bit of strategy, some dice rolling from United Autosports, choosing a quick stop to kick their race off. So that means the 2 minimum pit stop time stops are still to come.
Absolutely.
Remember, LMP3 dictated by 2 long stops that this weekend are a minute and 20 seconds.
Which means that Joop van Uite has not burned one of those.
And hasn't really done a very quick lap, very quick stop either. If you're going to not do a minimum pit stop reference time there, you want to do it. You want to beat it by some margin and be down in the low 50s, and that's exactly what Scott Andrews did. It was a 52-second stop for Scott Andrews for United Autosports. It was a 58-second stop for G-Drive. That's an LMP2 car, so we need not concern ourselves about that. But yes, if you're going to sneak underneath the 1 minute 20 minimum time, you want to do it to the tune of Scott Andrews rather than Joop van Uite, who's sort of betwixt and between there with a minute and 8. That might cost them later on in the race for RLR. Came here as championship leaders. The 18M Racing machine, driven by Nathan Biel, is 3rd in the LMP3 race order at the moment, ahead of Ross Kaiser. 360 Racing might be well placed here, as all of a sudden from nowhere came the 30 car there, driven by Konstantin Tereshenko. So the Russian has massively overcooked the bus stop chicane and ended up close to the marshal post, I think. Had to U-turn and rejoin.
This is topsy-turvy stop up and down the order, isn't it? We've got Ben Hanley here fending off Gabriel Aubry, I think, is the replacement silver driver for the injured Paul Lafargue. Gabriel, one of the Jackie Chan DC Racing Squad, of course, in the FIWC this year, silver ranked driver. Ben Hanley looking to get on terms with Will Stevens ahead, 4th position in the Panis Barthez. Ligier, another Michelin shod car, so it's Michelin shod Ligier ahead of Michelin shod Dragon Speed Orica against another Michelin shod Orica. All of a sudden, this is Aubry and Hanley with what will be Kay van Berlo ahead.
Okay, so the 11 car not very far away. Yes, it is. Good spot into Bruxelles corner.
He's got past Will Stevens in doing that. That's a pass for position on Will Stevens for 4th.
Yeah. So Will Stevens now at the wheel of the Panis Barthez Ligier. Absolutely no visibility at all out front, as there is going to be a stop and go penalty of 2 minutes for car 26 after that collision with Christian Reed. This was the moment as Jean-Eric Verne tried to dart up the inside of Ryan Cullen for, well, that was to stick a lap on the Irishman, and it resulted in contact with Christian Reed, who then came back across the track and smacked into the back of Ryan Cullen's car. It's ruined the races potentially of 77 and 31, and a 2 minute stop and go penalty is the result for the championship leaders. Thumbs up. That is a brave face being put on this situation though by the G-Drive team.
Yeah, well, it's going to cost them about a lap. When you take into account the run down the pit lane, it's not going to be a million miles away from a lap. That said, that both the 77 and the 31, both completely innocent victims of that, are both still in the garage.
Yeah, good point.
And by the way, in whether, I'm sure it was a mistake, you could use the word careless. I'm not going to do that because I'm not having to deal with these conditions. But in those circumstances, either way, from that mistake, Jean-Eric Verne took a position in doing so.
Yes.
So he gained on track from his mistake.
Yes, so the 26 was fighting the 31 at the time for position then?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I was unsure in my mind as to whether that was a bit of backbury or...
That was a battle for position. He was looking to place himself up the inside to take the inside line through the bus stop, and clearly had not realised Christian Reed was there.
Yeah. But the other thing you've got to think about is that, you know, the 77's been hugely delayed, way more than 2 minutes because of that repair job. It's still in the pits.
Might well be out of the race.
Might well be out of the race. And the 31 car, you know, has to limp home to the pits. So
might well be out of the race.
So it's back out.
Just coming out now. They're coming out now with Ryan Cullen aboard.
Poor old Ryan Cullen had to do 7Ks without a rear deck, and they've done actually quite a quick repair job there at APR Rebellion Racing, and finally the car's back into the race. It was a 6 minute and 50-second stop.
So the reality is, whatever happens, if you are just looking at that in isolation between the net effect between the two LMP2 cars involved, forget for a moment the 77. Jean-Eric Verne has profited by about 4 or 5 minutes of Ryan Cullen.
Yeah. Yes, good point. So, the attempt from the race directors, the officials, to try and even things up a little bit. You can't give the race back to Christian Reed and his team number 77, likewise to APR Rebellion Racing, but you can penalise those in the wrong. And as you say, I mean, it was very, very small margins, but each driver's got to look out for one another. That was a slight off-track moment for car number 3 at Les Combes, the United Autosports car. Meanwhile, somebody stopped at the start of the Kemmel Straight to the driver's right, and then we've now got to try and work that out. Now, the difficulty with our track map, it might be car 31, actually.
I think it is car 31.
So
just
on an
out
outlap, Ryan Cullen and car 31 then due at the end of the Kemmel Straight.
And off the track is number 7. That's the Christian Olsen pedal, the Courier Kost Nielsen car.
8th place.
Yeah.
8th place in LMP3. So, and that car started 4th, remember, with Colin Noble at the wheel. And we're going to go safety car again, and this is because of 2 cars stopped out on track.
I think, is that Olsen? Olsen has managed to back out of the barriers. So it doesn't look like much damage to the Ligier. No, there isn't very much damage to the Ligier. I think he's just skidded off in the prevailing conditions. Meantime, the other APR car, this time no, that's not, sorry, I misidentified that. That is the 47 Settle Valorba Corsa car. So all happening again, all of a sudden, and I have to tell you, Johnny, that rain is looking a lot heavier to me now.
Yes, and if we don't make the full distance, of course, only half points will be awarded. That also takes a significant chunk of the race away from the 26 in their efforts to recover what will be a 2-minute stop. Now, you won't presumably be able to do this penalty behind the safety car.
No.
So, I mean, that negates the whole point of the penalty, which is to take 2 minutes of race time away from the 26 car. It needs to be done at full speed. That was a part spin, I think, for car 25 as well.
Yeah, Mark Patterson having a bit of a struggle. That looked to be exactly the same point in the track where Christian Olsen struggled. So we got some standing water there, I wonder.
I've got standing water in lots of places, including in the pit lane for the Cetilar Villorba Corsa car, which is now sent on its way again. That's surely Felipe Nasser out of the car to hand over to one of his co-drivers, either Sergio Giotto.
He pitted from second position, by the way, and it's now Jean-Eric Verne up into second position and right on the tail behind the safety car of Felipe Albuquerque, but with that 2-minute penalty still to come. Is the damage for...
It was Sergio Giotto, by the way, taking over from Nasser. One driver stepping away from the car. Now,
That's Ryan Cullen. That's Ryan Cullen.
Okay, from the 31. And that suggests, therefore, that Christian Olsen has stayed at the wheel of the 7 and is moving again.
We've got trouble for one. Which of the... Is that the 11? It is the 11. That is Kay van Berlo with damage to the rear of the number 11 car going into the garage from a strong position in the LMP3 class.
Yeah. Just the one... No, he's made 2 pit stops, and one of them was one of the quicker the LMP3s have to make.
Snatch vehicle on the way to recover the number 31. You can see Ryan Cullen on the other side of the barrier, walking away from that car. It's not necessarily going to help them with recovering the car, is it, with no driver?
So a third safety car period. This race, of course, brought forward in the day. It was due for a 12:30 start, which is only 3 minutes away. We would have been starting in far worse conditions, and the conditions set to get even worse than this before they get better. A thunderstorm is predicted for a little later on. That was the reason for bringing the start of the race forward. We should be done, therefore, by 2:45 this afternoon, and that is 2 hours and 17 minutes away.
Well, there's been dramas for most cars, I'm afraid, of all sorts, of whether or not it's just running wide in the case of Andrea Pizzitola twice to drop the 26 car down the order. Jean-Eric Verne has been pedalling hard to bring the car back up. Then that's clash with the 77 involving then the 31, which I suspect has ultimately led to the demise of that car. Jean-Eric Verne being dealt a 2-minute stop and go. We haven't yet seen that penalty taken, with the safety car coming out just a few moments after that news broke. So the championship leading car, the potential championship winning car, will emerge. But by the way, this is not going to help them, because of course the field is all backed up behind now, so that 2 minutes in terms of positions is going to mean more than it otherwise would.
Yes,
he's going to have to pass more cars as a result of that. Lots of debris.
Yeah, all over the track. This is at the bus stop chicane, isn't it? So that's what's left after the 77 hit the 31, the Porsche into the APR Rebellion car of Ryan Cullen. Yeah, there's been several incidents at the bus stop. It's been the location of what effectively comes down to an endurance racing cage fight several times during the, what is that, an hour and 45 minutes we've had so far, Johnny, of what is due at the moment to be a 4-hour race. Weather conditions, I wouldn't quite say yet are atrocious, but they're not great. In comes number 26. Right, so this presumably is a standard pit stop now, which you can do behind the safety car. What they can't do is the 2-minute penalty. No, and this, I presume, will be for Roman Rusinov to get aboard the car. So, yeah, fuel going to go in, and Roman Rusinov. No sign of Roman yet. Well, Jean-Eric Verne can do a little bit more driving. What they might do, of course, we've had a stint from Pizzitola, who is the silver. Actually, Rusinov is a gold, isn't he? So they're just going to top the car up. Yeah. But they can put a half a tank of fuel in, I think, under a safety car. I believe that's correct. But they're just going to top the fuel up. But the concern is that Andrea Pizzitola has burned sufficient time, being the silver in that combination, and the other two are pros. I think Pizzitola has got to get back in the car. Yes, I would agree with that. And obviously, Jean-Eric Verne helping Andrea out, because the conditions have got so bad that he fell off the road down at Campers on 2 successive laps. Just no front tyre temperature and very, very little grip on the high line through that right-hander, which is deceptively tight, actually. You come out of Lafagna corner and then really have to lose a lot of speed to go through the initial right-hander, which is much tighter than curve Paul Frere. And there is a gravel trap right on the edge of the track which sucks you in. Should say, by the way, the high intensity rear light on the GT is nowhere near as effective as the LMP2s in that camera shot. This is Job van Utiet. Lots and lots of water going up there. Is it Job still at the wheel of the car? Yes. It is indeed. Through up the hill from Eau Rouge and over the top at Randillon corner. And Job van Utiet being at the wheel from the start of this race in car 15, with still John Ferrano and Rob Garofal to come. Getting to hear from a number of people down in the paddock via email and social media that we're getting to the stage where the question should be asked whether or not this is raceable at the moment. Yeah. And certainly the spray is way worse than it was. Standing water is certainly worse than we've seen since the start of the race. Yeah, so obviously a decision that has to be talked about and potentially approached to the teams as well, but it'll be Eduardo Freitas, absolutely, who gets the final decision. Well, he's got the advantage, of course, of having his safety car driver out there who can actually see and feel the conditions, as the 31 car is lifted onto the flatbed. So the immediate reason for the safety car being called
is about to be dispensed with. That said, I'm sure there will be the opportunity taken to deal with some of the debris fields we've seen. A number of incidents affecting cars in more or less all of the classes. Not really seen other than the 77 car recently. Any of the any of the GTEs off track, but there you go. Bit of clear up, I'm sure, happening. But we saw the point that worried me there was standing water up Eau Rouge.
Yeah.
Or at least probably flowing water down Eau Rouge. And that's not a pleasant place to have that happening.
Yeah, these rivers that generally run from side to side, but clearly at a very, very steep part of the circuit, some of the steepest racetrack in the world there at Eau Rouge. And if you are just presented with a waterfall, that is very, very tricky to find the grip. And concerned fans of Joop van Uite, members of the team quite possibly as well, with the umbrellas that match the advertising on the side of the number 15 car, running second at the moment behind Scott Andrews for United Autosports. But bear in mind that the Scott Andrews car did a short stop in the LMP3 category.
It's the Kyrgios Nielsen car with a new nose being fitted for Christian Olsen after that off. I think that off was up at Les Combes.
Yeah.
Into the second element there. And we saw the Mark Patterson car, the 25 car, struggling at more or less the same place just after Christian recovered the car to the track. So the Kyrgios Nielsen squad taking the opportunity of the safety car to make that repair.
Kay van Berlo still in the pit lane as well after that number 11 Euro International car was very tidily placed. Second in the championship coming here as well. In what looked like a really strong lineup. Giorgio Mondini yet to do any driving after Mattia Drudi started that car and Kay van Berlo brought it in.
We've not been used to seeing very much by way of attrition in endurance racing lately, but this is going to be the exception to the rule. A lot of cars in trouble. BHK Motorsport out of the race very early on. We didn't see what happened to that car, but that was very early on in the race. The ultimate car, Jean-Baptiste Lehay, we saw that battling for second position and losing grip. It's just the wrong moment and car into the barrier. High Class Racing have not emerged from the pits after a couple of offs for and the Fjord back, and I think there was probably an underlying cause for that. AT Racing stopped on track with Jan Clary. Nick Jonsson, the victim of a rather rude assault from the number 5 Nefis by Speed Factory Ligier. The car, by the way, 31 car, recovered to the safety of the infield, as in comes the number 2, Scott Andrews, from the lead in LMP3, lest we forget. What else has been in trouble? Christian Reed, we saw that car in trouble. That car is still in the pits. Christian didn't seem to me to be in a major hurry to get back aboard. There are a number of cars that have been delayed since then, including both Euro International cars. Both are in the garage at the moment.
What sort of pit stop then is this going to be for Scott Andrews, who's already got the short one under his belt? So presumably this is one of the mandatory longer stops at United Autosports, and a driver change taking place there as
John
well.
Falb.
So here is the tyres are being changed to renew the Michelin wet weather tyres beneath the number 2 car, and John Falb taking over. No Sean Rahal, remember, this weekend, and get well soon, Sean.
Absolutely, Sean.
So nearly 2 hours completed. Let's hope we make the 4-hour marker, but we have had various highlights through the course of the race, and also this weekend actually, because a view to the future as far as Garage 56 and the next project the ACO are looking at. H24, you know a lot about what's happening here, Graham.
Yep, this is the ACO investing in future technology. We already know that the new pits complex is due to be fitted out for the potential to fit for hydrogen fueling. This is them investing in the Green GT project. Was initially set to be a project that saw Garage 56 usage. We've got a couple of well-known drivers around with this one, but in particular, Yannick Dalmas taking out the completely hydrogen-fueled car based on an LMP3 chassis, the Dash chassis. Some 650 horsepower available from the hydrogen-fueled engine here, and this car had a couple of times out around the Spa-Francorchamps track at reasonable speed, it should be said. and the exhaust emission from this, water.
Yes.
And indeed,
So,
bottled water of that variety being offered to the media.
there you go.
Happily not in the conditions that we're seeing today, but this was yesterday. Also saw the car out on Friday with a couple of establishing laps, but Yannick Dalmas speaking very highly of actually the experience. This is an early effort, of course, with this car. A lot more to come, but this is all about heading towards 2024 and a further new set of regulations beyond the ones we're expecting very soon for the top class in prototype racing, but zero emissions racing.
Yeah, it's a technology already utilised in the public transport industry. There are buses around the world powered by hydrogen cells, and again they emit nothing but water. But the real technical challenge for this is to try and extract the sort of speed required to race around Le Mans and the 8.5 mile circuit there. But promising to see the future, quite possibly, of motorsport. We know all about the electric side of things, but that offers something very, very different.
Hydrogen electric drive and, you know, near silence. Needs a lolly stick in the wheel, if you ask me, for a bit of a... But from the future, and actually the near future, to the present, and it's grim out there.
Certainly is. And those in the pit lane trying to put a brave face on it. And well, for the officials, over 2 hours of this now, what with the build-up and the grid walk as well. And this might be a little while now behind the safety car, whilst conditions are assessed by the officials. Again, it's giving everybody that is out there an idea of how much grip is offered by this track at reduced speed. Remember, some of these drivers might be very new to their cars as well, having just taken them over.
Almost 2 hours, though, that with a correct decision to actually start this a little earlier. Well, at least one man who's had some opportunity, albeit short opportunity, to have a look at the conditions out there. He's back after bad news. Ryan Cullen down with Charlie in pit lane.
Ryan, really disappointing an early end to the race for you. What was your point of view of that accident? What did you see?
Didn't really see a lot due to the weather, and it kind of hit me from the side in the mid corner, so I wasn't really sure who hit me or what happened. All I remember is really just driving back, trying to keep the car in one piece to just bring it back to the pits.
Yeah, it wasn't the most ideal thing to have to bring it round another lap in that condition, was it?
No, it was really frustrating. The team said bring it into the pits, and I just missed the pit entry, so I had to do another lap. Otherwise, I was risking us getting a penalty to try and cut back through. But yeah, it was difficult in the best of conditions, and it's raining now, so it was pretty difficult.
And you were hoping that this weekend the kind of luck was changing for you guys. Sadly, that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, wasn't really too sure where I was on track, but I think we were in a good position for a podium. With Vern behind us and 2 cars in front of us on the pit stop, so I'm not really sure, but I think we had our Gustavo, our goal to go at the end, so we had a good strong end to the race, I think.
Thank you, and better luck next time.
Thank you.
That's Somerset-born Ryan Cullen, although very much runs with the Irish flag against his name due to family background, and lots of Porsche racing in recent years, including being the 2016 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Middle East champion, and he raced in Super Cup last year as well with Lechner, so this is first taste of prototype racing this season, and it's been a learning curve but has shown really good speed behind the wheel of LMP2 cars. We hate to see a race ending in that way though, and thankfully the 31 car got going again, and then obviously ground to a halt on the next lap. That might well be it for car 31. The 25 faring slightly better, although still 23rd overall and 13th in class, with Mark Patterson at the wheel.
Yeah, 31 definitely out because Ryan's walked away from the car.
Yes, of course.
So that's another casualty, I'm afraid, in what already is an attrition race, all of which has been directly weather related, but yeah, bad luck for the 31 crew. That was a very good run from them at that point. So we're heading into halfway point, just 3 minutes away from that, under the safety car. I think the safety car will probably take us through that point.
So everybody bunching up behind the safety car. This gives us a great opportunity to look back on what I sense is going to be a long highlights reel now. This race started at the earlier point of 10:45. Conditions weren't very different, let's face it, than we have now. Thumbs up initially from Mathieu Lehay. They were hoping for a really good race at Ultimate, and various selfies and other photographs of cars being taken. A big grin from Memo Rojas, who again is getting more and more used to these conditions. Mexican born, but he is the current European Le Mans Series champion, co-champion with Leo Roussel from last year, and well used to racing here in Europe. So we got underway, but behind the safety car, and then after 4 laps the safety car peeled in, and it was every man for himself out there, with down towards La Source. Thankfully not a 2x2 restart, single file, which meant that it was clean out of the first corner, but it didn't take too long for the first incidents to appear. And some good battling between various different chassis in LMP2. The Dalaras coming good in the hands of Felipe Nasser and Konstantin Tereshchenko. Ferrari side by side in the GTE category as well. Duncan Cameron battling it out with Liam Griffin. And this was the dice for the LMP3 lead, with Mattia Drudi duking it out, a drag race really, out of turn 18 and 19 with Joop van Uitert, who wasted no time at all to come from 5th on the grid to then lead the race. Wasn't able to quite manage it there, but later on, this was the moment that Joop van Uitert went up the inside of Jean-Baptiste Lehay to take the LMP3 lead. The 17 car would hang on to second place for the next few laps, but then big drama that we will see no doubt in a moment or two for the Ultimate car. Andrea Pizzitola doing a really good job to run the high line and fend off for the race lead Nicolas Jamin. This was the moment we lost the Ultimate car though, the Norma M30 running second at the time. Strange moment actually, because Jean-Baptiste Lehay coming out of Lafagna corner at what looked like similar speed to previous laps, but lost the back end. Then the safety car came out to clear that car, and obviously the natural flurry of pit stops. Nick Johnson having no choice but to collide with Alexei Chuklin's number 5 Nefis by Speed Factory car, and the Ukrainian driver at the wheel of the LMP3 machine was penalised for that, and Johnson's car now out of the race. Pizzitola with 2 runs through the gravel trap at Campus Corner, one of which coincided with an incident for the number 12 Euro International car. More pit stops, and we've had various safety car periods. No full course yellows yet, but pit stops for the LMP2s and the LMP3s. Almost a gravelly moment for Joop van Uitert, and that was the time when the LMP3 lead changed again, and a great move from Antonin Borger. And this has provoked a lot of conversation in the paddock after side-by-side glancing blow between Jean-Eric Verne and Christian Ried. Ried off onto the grass, not able to control the Porsche, and it slid into the side of Ryan Cullen's car. Christian Ried understandably apoplectic at that. We've had 2 further problems for cars. The 31, which is now out of the race. We've just heard from Ryan Cullen down in the pit lane. And the 7 with dramas as well, although that car is running again, still with Christian Olsen, the Dane, at the wheel. Back to live action, still no restart though, and we're now into hour 3 of the 4 hours of Spa.
And confirmation, with thanks to my colleague Stephen Kilby, that Ryan Cullen's race-ending issue was a drive shaft failure. I have zero doubt that was a direct result of the contact from the side. This is the current race order. 22 United Autosports ahead of the 21 Dragon Speed.
Don't pay any attention to the gaps, by the way, because we're behind safety car. But yeah, nearly 40 laps completed. We're working lap 40 now. So 22 United Autosports, Philippe Albuquerque leading Ben Hanley, Will Stevens and Gabriel Aubry. Further down, the number 2 car, John Falb, now leads LMP3 with 2 pit stops under their belt. Rob Garofal's taken over the RLR M Sport car to run second in class ahead of Ross Kaiser for 360 Racing. In LMGTE, it is Fabio Babini at the wheel of the EB Motors Porsche leading, that's car 80, leading 55 Spirit of Race Ferrari of Matt Griffin, and the 88 Porsche of Giorgio Roda Jr., who came here as the championship drivers leaders in the GTE category. So 1 hour and 58 minutes to go, and if you missed a moment or two ago the update about H24 and the future of different fueling technologies of cars, then this is the hydrogen project and Mission 24, with Pierre Fillon obviously taking an active interest. This car ran several laps yesterday, having been tested in secret on Friday, but fantastic to see its public debut, sounding very, very different from any other sort of race car we are accustomed to.
Unmistakable face there of Yannick Dalmas. Olivier Lombard, previous race winner and championship winner in the European Le Mans Series WC as well, involved in this project. We'll be seeing a lot more of this technology. Hydrogen electric drive, said before, around 650 horsepower. Refueling with the hydrogen in pit lane here. This team has got the garage at pit out for the weekend. And I suspect if you come along and attend WC and European Le Mans Series races, you're going to be seeing more of this car and this project in the years to come. Gerard Deveau, Pierre Fillon introducing those around and behind the projects, including senior officials from the European Union.
Yep, so a significant launch, and there are the bottles then of water that basically emitted from these cars, and it is drinkable as well. Perfect H2O for mission H24, and we've got plenty of H2O here at Spa as well, pouring from the sky.
Tragically, that's nothing to do with the hydrogen drive, rather more to do with nature.
And racing here at Spa.
Absolutely. And, the local spring water industry can be much boosted by the climate through this morning and today. The decision taken to start this race early.
So, question of how much more of this race we can last for, but let's catch up with Scott Andrews, the former class leader in LMP3 for United Autosports.
Well, Scott, welcome to ELMS. I promise you it's not normally like this. You're in, of course, replacing Sean, who's unfortunately ill this weekend. How was that stint for you?
Yeah, that was one of the hardest stints I've ever had to do. Mainly through just, you can't see a thing. And, you know, being in the P3, you're normally with traffic, whether it's, I don't think really saw many GTs, but the P2's coming back through, or in the P3 pack. So you can't see literally from like 10 feet in front of you. It's crazy. And by the end there, I was actually in 6th gear, going like down the straights, sideways, like catching the car, straight line, catching it. It was pretty crazy. So yeah, I thought they were going to red flag, and then I had no radio on the last 5 laps, so I didn't know that they were putting John in the car. So it was a little bit of a slow stop and whatever. I think maybe a bit of water got in my radio because I tried to replug it a few times. But anyway, the team gave me a great car, and you know, I was able to do a decent enough job with it.
Now, John's out there at the moment, leading the class. I know before you came, with the lack of experience here and everything else, you were just hoping for, you know, a decent result. This would be a great result, wouldn't it?
Yeah, to be honest, like, given how close qualifying was and everything, and like how good the drivers are in this series, yeah, to get a result out of this would be unbelievable. I only knew about doing this race Monday evening. So I hopped on a plane. I live in Atlanta in America. I hopped on a plane. I'm wearing Sean Rahall's suit and everything, and just got here. Yeah, never been here, so it'd be amazing if our boy Johnny can bring it home. That'd be awesome.
Well, you're done in the car. Go and take a well-earned rest, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Fairy tale stuff from Scott Andrews. Did a great stint there. That's the spirit of endurance there.
Absolutely. So brave spectators, happy to stay out in the pouring wet conditions, photographers as well, and think about the marshals who have had to put in a lot of work already in this race to deal with cars that have ground to a halt at the side of the track, and also badly damaged machines as well.
Streaming wet. That is the reality. It's a red flag comes out now, and that's why barely drivable.
Yeah.
And not raceable at this stage. So a red flag is called. We'll give you more information as and when we get it. But if it happens here and that's it, and we get no restarts, it will be half points at this point, Johnny.
Yeah, and celebrations have already started down in the pit lane.
It's a double win if this is the case for United Autosports.
That would be a phenomenal result for United Autosports. They are in the correct positions right now, as you say, with the number 22 car of Philippe Albuquerque and Phil Hansen having completed 41 laps, and they were leading as the red flag was displayed. John Faub and Scott Andrews, the man we've just heard from. John's done very little driving, but it might be at this stage half points, because we're not yet at the 75% marker in the race. That would obviously be 3 hours or a 4-hour race. So it's still half points to be awarded, with the clock interestingly still ticking down. And there is... Yeah, we're certainly not done yet with the red flag out, but there is the option, of course, to Eduardo Freitas to restart this race if the weather conditions improve at all.
He's going to have good weather information and race control. Well-versed Spa-Francorchamps with determining whether or not there's going to be a change in weather visible on the weather radar and with other sources they have available to them. But lots of factors to take into account here, not just in terms of the current running order and the potential results in this race, but also, of course, in championship positions. Lots of things up in the air, including, of course, the looming fact that a 2-minute stop and hold penalty for G-Drive Racing Team, championship leaders and potential championship winners here, still to be taken into account. So at the moment, as things stand, the cars, as the GDS, G-Drive Racing mechanics trying to sort out with each other exactly what happened with that incident with Jean-Eric Verne. Either didn't see or believed he'd cleared the 77 Porsche, fundamentally had not done so. A major nerf on the side of the Porsche sent Christian Ried spinning helplessly across this sopping wet grass. We'll see it again here. That was the contact. Christian Ried helpless at this point. Ryan Cullen will have just had a flash of the rear end of the Porsche. Big impacts. It took the rear end out of the Oreca. Cars making their way round to stop at the end of this lap. Big impact with the rear of the 31 car. That came in for repairs, was sent back out, but a failed drive shaft, we understand, finally ended the day for the 31 car, and that was what brought out the safety car that stayed to the point of this red flag. Roman Rusinov and Andrea Pizzitola. All cars in line on the left-hand side of the starting grid, please. So a decision will be taken at some point as to whether or not they believe this race can be got moving again. Well done to the race organisers for making that call last night with the incoming weather that has given us the better part of 2 hours of racing, because frankly we're not so far in to the point where this race would have started. Cars brought to a halt under the control of the safety car, left-hand side of start-finish straight. Crews will be allowed to attend with nothing other, I seem to recall, than covers and a starting battery. No work allowed on the cars. And the circuit goes quiet. So as things stand, the running order under this red flag, United Autosports and Felipe Albuquerque, they're the championship leaders. Jean-Eric Verne pulling into line. Felipe Albuquerque ahead of the Dragon Speed Oreca with Ben Hanley at the wheel. Will Stevens up into third in the Panis Barthez Ligier. Then Gabriel Aubry, fourth in the Edix Sports Oreca. Nelson Panciatici in the Duquesne Engineering Oreca. That's the top five. Then Wayne Boyd, second United Autosports car. What a debut they've had on the Michelin tyres here. Olivier Pla, and this might be a significant position for the Racing Engineering number 24 car, seventh. Alexandre Coignot in the 39 Graf Oreca in eighth. Then the AVF by Adrian Valles car of Konstantin Terashenko, and 10th, Settlov Valoba Corsa, Giorgio Sinigiotto, before we get to the 11th place car in the order, and the final one of the train of LMP2s, and that is Jean-Eric Verne, before we then get into LMP3, John Falb, Rob Garofol, 1-2 in United Autosports and RLRM Sport 2 and 15.
I can confirm it's absolutely miserable out there, because I just had a pop out of the commentary box for brief pit stop of my own, and it's getting worse. It feels like it is, because
it's tipping it down.
Yeah, it really, and looking at the sky in all directions, pretty dark for any of the weather that might be closing in. So I think a restart very unlikely in the next 15 minutes or so, but all cars, as Graham's mentioned, in line now to the left-hand side of the starting grid, presumably for a restart at a short call. And those teams that are very wise have sent a lone mechanic out to each of their cars with an umbrella to try and offer a bit of shelter to drivers that want to step out of their little cockpit. But I think the sensible thing is to stay on board right now.
Not sure they're allowed to step out at this point. So there's various ways and means in which the rules operate here. There's certainly no work allowed on the cars whatsoever. You can cover the car, certainly can protect the driver in the cockpit.
Yeah, there's a rule about not stepping so many metres away from the car, isn't there? Obviously that's probably still the case with a red flag. But this is a great opportunity again to catch up with various drivers who are out there having to race this. Let's hear from Joop van Uitert for RLR M Sport now with Charlie.
Well, Joop, I know for you guys, you'd be quite happy if this red flag remains and it's race over at this point.
Yeah, we're ahead of our championship rivals, and yeah, I don't really mind if we just get away from this weekend with more points than them. So for us, the red flag is at the right point. It would be better after 75%, but as well, it's just too dangerous to drive. Like if you're having aquaplaning moments going up by Rouge or into Blanchimont, when you're going 200 kilometers an hour, it's too dangerous. You don't have any control over the car. And yeah, I love to race in wet conditions, like in bad conditions, but this is just too bad and too dangerous.
So certainly for you, there's fun, wet weather, and then this is another level.
Yeah, this is the next level, which isn't fun anymore. I love driving in the rain, and I'm feeling always confident in here, but when you're going 200 kilometers an hour and then having an aquaplaning moment and you don't have any control anymore over the car and just hoping that you will get it back, and luckily I got it back twice, but yeah, apart from that, it's just too wet right now with too many puddles on track.
It's been an incredible season for you though, hasn't it? Looking back, are you pleased with how it's gone so far?
Yeah, if you would tell me that this year I would win 2 races from the first 4, I would say you're joking. So I'm really happy with how it's turning out and really confident for my future career in sports cars and hopefully moving up to LMP2 next year.
So is there any firm plans for next year, or are you still in discussions?
We're still in discussions with multiple teams, but it's looking all right.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, and we'll speak to you later.
Thank you very much.
Well, we saw, Johnny, didn't we, that moment Joop van Uitert was talking about it. It was, one of those, it could have been a massive chance. He said himself, lucky that actually the car came back to him and the grip was there where he needed it just to keep on the grey stuff. But more information, we're told, by the way, Johnny, you were spot on, 15 minutes and not before that.
Educated guess.
Yeah, absolutely, and you are indeed highly educated. But you can see the problem there. That's just puddling now. Yeah. That water, and Joop van Uitert rated by very many in the paddock, and he's absolutely right. By the way, multiple teams interested in his services for next season in LMP2. For a driver of that talent to be as blunt as he was being there with Charlie, that needs to be taken seriously. I know, it's frustrating when you're trackside, when you're in the pit lane, when you're watching on TV, wherever you are around the world, and you're more than welcome to join us here. It is frustrating when it looks as if it might be raceable. You've just got to trust guys like that. He is not afraid of that car. He's not afraid of this racing. He's shown that throughout this year. But we saw very vividly earlier he was out of control in a place where he had no purpose to be out of control, and that was purely down to the prevailing conditions, track conditions. Nothing you can do if you're aquaplaning up a hill.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a question of how many times you can get that back, I suppose. And a man of his talent, a moment down at Campus Corner, just before Curve Paul Frere, exactly where Pizzitola went off a couple of times. But it's that river effect that we've got at various points around this track now. Green grass at the side of the road holds on to the water, and through those banked corners we're bound to get some travelling water now. The Kemmel Straight, although it looks flat if you're watching the race at home on the cameras, that is just an effect from the TV. It is pretty steep if you were to walk it from the start of the Kemmel Straight up to Les Combes, and therefore water's going to be travelling down the Kemmel Strait as well, in the opposite direction of travel at a fair rate of knots. So it's the rivers, the standing water, that cause the aquaplaning and potentially cause the big incidents. But there's going to be more information at 1:15. As I say, having been out in it very, very briefly a moment or two ago.
Not in a hurry to go back.
It doesn't take very long to get soaked to the skin. And, you know, an indication of how cool it is out there as well. Not windy, so the weather system is unlikely to leave us in the near future as well.
Remember, you can talk to us here in the booth. We've got a little bit of downtime now, and there'll be lots of speculation, but you can get to us at Blackpool Johnny, for Johnny Palmer, at DSC Editor on Twitter for myself, Graham Goodwin. We'll do what we can to enlighten and entertain.
And in the meantime, let's look back then on what the race has offered us so far, with actually some incredibly talented driving on display to keep cars out of the barriers. And the race started under the safety car, which was the very sensible decision from Eduardo Freitas, just to allow everyone to become acclimatised to the conditions. It didn't stop the grid walk being very well subscribed, indeed open to the public, of course, here in this highly accessible series. And then the grid was cleared and we got underway straight away with the race. The clock started to tick down from this point, even before there was a green flag lap. And then 4 laps later, everyone was told to start racing, and it was the man from pole position, Andrea Pizzitola, after Jean-Eric Verne stuck it on pole yesterday, to take the race lead, with a hard-charging Phil Hansen from second position and a great front row start. Of course, at the moment, we're looking like United Autosports will take victory if we don't get any more racing today, and that is that 22 car that started on the front row. Ferraris didn't take too much encouraging to go door handle to door handle into La Source corner, and also the battling in LMP3 you could barely tear your eyes away from, with Euro International fending off Joop van Uitert's car, at least initially, but then Joop van Uitert worked his way to the front of the order for RLRM Sport, darting by Jean-Baptiste Lahaye for Ultimate in that Norma. And you can see those cars nose to tail, the differences between the Ligier and the Norma there at close quarters. Andrea Pizzitola for the overall lead of the race in LMP2, then battling away with Nicolas Jamin, and finally Jamin was able to get through. This a huge moment for Jean-Baptiste Lahaye, losing the back of his Ultimate LMP3 car out of La Fagne corner. He wasn't going to get that back, and into the tyre barrier it went at a fair rate of knots, did a load of damage to the right-hand side of the car. Nick Johnson colliding with the Nefes by Speed Factory LMP3 driven by Alexei Chuklin, and it was Chuklin judged to be at fault there by overtaking and then immediately braking where an LMP3 car can stop but a GT can't. Pizzitola off in the gravel, and a stray Euro International LMP3 car sitting in the middle of the track, but Pizzitola, that was the first of a couple of trips into the campus gravel that he had, and in the end gave the car up to Jean-Eric Verne. And there's the 22 car that currently leads the race under the red flag. The 15 car did its best to run off the road there and actually gave the lead away to Antonin Borger in car number 4. There was a collision just before the bus-stop chicane, which resulted in the 77 going off onto the grass and then smacking the back of Ryan Cullen's car. Andrea Pizzitola and Roman Rusinov deep in conversation there, and chairs went flying as Christian Ried marched his way through the garage, having clambered out of that very badly damaged number 77 Porsche, entirely the innocent party, as was Ryan Cullen, who just a lap later retired with a failed drive shaft, no doubt connected with that incident. And here we are back now to live pictures with an hour and 38 minutes still on the clock. You'll notice the clock is still ticking down, but we can go down to the United Autosports garage now and join Charlie George, who's caught up with somebody very important in that team.
Yeah, this is a familiar face to many of you motorsport fans. To us, we know him as a co-owner of United Autosports. Zach Brown, welcome to ELMS Spa. Wet and rainy weekend.
Great to be here. I really enjoy the European Le Mans. Come and watch my team race. They're doing a great job, and I guess typical Spa conditions.
Now, for you guys, it would certainly suit you to call it game over at this point, leading P2 and P3. That would be a fantastic result for you guys.
It would be a great result. I think the organizers did a good job bringing the race forward. The weather looks like it's only going to get worse. All the drivers were saying the conditions are dreadful, so we'll see what they do here in about 10 minutes, whether they intend to restart. But certainly if we finished where we are right now, it'd be a good day at the office.
Now, the guys have done a fantastic job managing with these conditions and some great racing as well.
Yeah, the conditions are terrible. It's much more enjoyable to watch than probably be in the car right now. But yeah, it's been a good race. I think the drivers have done an excellent job in terrible conditions. You know, at least we got to the halfway mark, which is I think why they pulled the race forward. They knew the weather was only going to get worse, so I'm not sure it makes a lot of sense to restart if you're just going to end up red flagging it again. So I'm sure they'll make the right call here shortly.
Now, the team appears to be going from strength to strength. Can you tell us any of your plans for next season?
We'll do more European Le Mans. We'll run a couple cars in both P2 and P3 and continue in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. So kind of as you see us today. And we're starting to get closer to doing something maybe in the World Endurance Championship. But that wouldn't be for obviously the second half, I should say, of the first season would be towards the end of next year. So we're working on those plans.
Exciting stuff. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Zach Brown at United Autosports chatting to Charlie George, and we thank him for his time as we are in this significant interval now in the 5th race of the year for the 2018 European Le Mans Series. United Autosports are a regular performer and obviously a key part of the paddock in the ELMS currently and the Michelin Le Mans Cup. But the one thing that they haven't yet gone into is the WEC, which is obviously now in a transition season to move it from a summer to a winter championship. And I think the suggestion there from Zach Brown is that United Autosports would look to get involved from September onwards from the Silverstone round next year and through the winter period. This wet weather does not prevent a cracking karting race taking place currently. This is on the kart track then that's just on the inside of Curve Paul Frere, and if I had an entry list I'll be able to tell you who was leading and battling probably for the lead there. That's a great overtake with the guy in the Dayglow yellow helmet probably shouting all sorts of misdemeanors over his left shoulder as he swept through to take the lead. So there's a some racing taking place here at Spa. Oh, I think the same guy's just ended up in the tyre barrier. So he gets his comeuppance. And a nice little crowd actually enjoying that. Oh, get it back, son. No, not quite. And into the tyres he goes. Well, so that's entertaining stuff down there, but sadly we haven't got an ELMS race to enjoy right now.
Well, I can tell you that race control will be certainly looking. Birds are on the ground. That's never a good thing. Birds on the ground.
Like cows lying down?
No, they're completely different shape and size.
Thanks for that.
But tell you, race control will be looking not just at track conditions, and of course we have Yannick Delmas here as the race director's advisor. On that side of things, but also the extensive weather forecasting resources they're going to have at their disposal. You see there, even on the karting circuits, streaming wet. But for me, the most telling intervention there was Joop van Uitert, a young man who knows this circuit very well, and saying himself there that the level of standing water, even up Eau Rouge towards Raidillon, just about undrivable. And you've got to listen to that from the guys who are actually out there. It's very easy to take a view of what you see on a TV picture. That looks almost spring-like, doesn't it? Believe me, it's not. It's horrible out there at the moment. We're not a million miles away from where we're expected to get some further information just within the next 5 minutes. Do stick with us.
But you're right about modern day camera technology can pierce through the fog, and we have had quite a bit of low-lying cloud all day, and the spray, and provide some visibility that the drivers could only dream about, really. But that doesn't stop a really good karting event that is traditionally held during this weekend, actually. I remember the kart track being very, very busy last year on the Sunday night, and there are floodlights available.
You stood out there in the dark, didn't you?
I did.
On track.
It wasn't raining and howling a gale, well, not quite a gale, because we've got virtually no wind speed here, but yes, I did. As the Daily Sports Car staff were working away at various articles and race reports, I took a walk around this 7-kilometre circuit, having never actually walked the whole track, just to get an idea of the gradient change and also the visibility that you get into certain corners. And we were at dusk, and the karting track was still a hive of activity with all the floodlights on, and a tremendous final that I just stumbled across with about, 10 different leaders. So it's a really good challenge that provides for the karters, as does this world-class venue, clearly, and everyone just chomping at the bit to get back involved, but we need a little bit less precipitation in order to do that. At the moment, still half points on offer, and it would be only half points unless we can get closer to that 3/4 mark, 75%. And obviously the bulk of this hour could well be gone as far as the rain is concerned, and we'll be looking then to race for the whole of the final hour, which seems unlikely at this stage.
Yeah, that's a much better shot of actually what it's like out there at the moment. I'm just reading a couple of comments coming in on social media and against the YouTube stream. Guys, this is what the weather's like here. It's horrific in terms of driving conditions. Thanks for some of the questions coming in. These splendidly named Marcel Duck, who was actually out there in weather fit for you. Marcel says he's walking around with wet feet, quite right. GTs could barely pass Poo on track, running safety car pace, he tells us. He's out there in the worst of this. In addition to which, a couple of questions about, there's some if, buts and maybes, what might happen. We do know, that one thing we absolutely know is that the number 26 car has not yet served an adjudged stop and hold penalty, 2-minute stop and hold penalty. I believe I'm right that would be added as a pure time penalty, which would take it off the lead lap at this stage. So we'll double check that if we possibly can. Not a done deal yet. We should be getting more information within about a minute or so's time against the timeline set by race control. I'm not seeing any change in the conditions here other than it getting wetter. The big problem here is not just the wet weather, it's the fact there is no wind. And once you're getting rain falling at the point where you're getting standing water, it's not going anywhere. Even if the cars are throwing it up in spray, in better wet weather conditions, in those instances, you're going to get that spray blowing away from the track surface. That's not happening, it's just falling down effectively if there's more rain. So it's getting worse, the conditions here out on track, without a shadow of a doubt. You can see there the flags absolutely still on the masts, and you're going to see more and more of that puddling, standing water, and at that point, even if you're in full wet on full wet tyres, at the kind of speeds that we're talking about here, with the kind of downforce levels we're talking about here, that's getting to the stage where it's very dangerous indeed. I'd only say this: they've got the experts in race control, including people who've been out there, done that in this era and in previous eras, and this stage not raceable. We've heard from one of the young drivers out there who's got everything in it for him to go out there and win a championship here this weekend. He tells us that is not at the moment something that he feels able and that it's safe to do, and I think he's quite correct.
Just been looking at the points in detail, and thank you to Jeff Carter, the FIA media delegate, for this championship too, and he concurs with my opinion. 26 very unlikely to score any points in this. I mean, irrespective of the penalty, it's outside of the top 10 as we stand, so you'd only get half a point for that, and it's half a point effectively.
Yep.
So let's consider that they stay on 87 because they did get the point.
Are we going to speculate
position
now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. It's a bit of speculation.
So bear in mind, a point for pole yesterday took them to 87. The downside, of course, for everybody else is that they only get half points. So any hope that they can make of gaining that ground up, which currently stands at, what was the gap coming here? It was 34 points that Racing Engineering were adrift of the 26 guys. And because they're only going to get half points, Jeff and I think that now G-Drive won't be caught, because even with Racing Engineering sitting where 7th position, you're going to get for 7th place half of 6 points. So they go from 53 to 56, nowhere near the 87 that G-Drive get. EDEC Sport in a similar situation. A race win, it may well be for United Autosports, but they're 10th in the championship, so that would only take them to 29. So therefore, actually the half points is going to go in G-Drive Racing's favour, and Roman Rusinov. He's not sure what's going to happen next. A shrug of the shoulders. But this is all playing into that TDS Racing prepared, G-Drive sponsored
by how
number
many
26
points
car.
At this stage? If it stopped now, by how many points?
The nearest would be on 56, and that's the 31-point deficit.
Information to the pit lane. This is race control. In order to make a safe race and have it done all the way to the end, the conditions which are foreseen are impossible to do it. We care about driver safety, so the race will not be resumed. All cars will be driven straight to Parc Fermé. The first of each class goes under the podium, so you're not even doing a lap. You will start your engines, you will go at T1, everyone turns right. We will have marshals on the track in order to split the cars, so please do it slowly. Everyone goes at T1, turns right. We will have cars going under the podium, cars going to scrutineering, and cars going to Parc Fermé.
And there you have it.
That's it. Of each class will go.
Eduardo Freitas giving the word that we will not restart, and therefore G-Drive Racing, the number 26 crew of Andrea Pizzitola, Jean-Eric Verne and Roman Rusinov, take the 2018 European Le Mans Series title in the LMP2 category, and it is a double victory for this race for United Autosports. Congratulations to Philippe Albuquerque and Phil Hansen, but also to John Falb, and a man who got the call very, very late on indeed, Scott Andrews, to come over to Spa and race in LMP3, and it's a double victory for United Autosports, who have struggled at times through the course of the year, but certainly for that number 2 car, they can't win the title. A big grin from Alex Menin as well, who is the team principal at EB Motors, because EB Motors of Italy have taken victory down at the number 80 crew. It's Fabio Babini who was at the wheel of the car when the red flag came out. And again, those guys, well, they've helped their championship cause, haven't they?
They have, because the 88 car will finish this race in 3rd position, albeit half points, remember. But 88 car will finish in half points. RRM Sports in the LMP3 standings outscore their nearest title rivals. That will work for them, but that battle will go to the final round of the season. But well, drama's on track now, drama's off track. Andrea Pizzitola's mood has improved somewhat dramatically as a result of that.
But we don't get a title winner in LMP3, nor do we in GTE, and they are set to be decided in Portugal. And we'll get you the exact point scores very shortly. But that's the celebration from Philippe Albuquerque. Most bizarre race when he's probably had, actually, sitting on a grid waiting for a race restart, probably desperate for it not to be started again. And they get not maximum points, remember, it's half of the 25 going the way of Philippe Albuquerque and Philip Hansen, who started that car and put in a really good stint. Charlie George is all set, though, to speak to Roman Rusinov, the 2018 co-champion.
Well, guys, congratulations. What a day, but you are the champions.
We're surprised because, to be honest, the race didn't really go on how we would like to have. But in the end of the day, yeah, we get some points, we get the championship in the end. Yeah, good day.
Yeah, honestly happy. It was really difficult for us today, but because we were really, really good all the season, we don't have anything to say. We just enjoy, we won this championship, and that's the most important.
Congratulations, guys, well done.
Thank you, thank you.
So another title going the way of Jean-Eric Verne as well. He is, of course, the 2017-18 Formula E champion, and he becomes the ELMS champion with those two boys, Andrea Pizzitola and Roman Rusinov. And that's nice as well for what was, by the way, the 75th European Le Mans Series race, if you track it all the way back to 2004 when the Le Mans Series started. And that man, Roman Rusinov, was a champion in 2004 in the GT category. So the whole history of the championship nicely bookended for the Russian.
Great day as well for United Autosports in bizarre circumstances. It was still 2 hours on track, or more or less, Johnny, with plenty to look back on and savour.
Yeah, we made it just into the third hour before the red flag was thrown, and this was the scene at 11:15 this morning. The race brought forward significantly to the morning of Sunday rather than a 12:30 start originally scheduled, where probably the whole of the race would have been held under the safety car. So a good decision by the officials. At least we got some racing in and an ability to award half points. Started under the safety car. This was just to get everybody used to the conditions and an idea of how much or how little grip there was out there. Then they were racing after just 4 laps behind the safety car, and we were treated to some expert driving, not all from the gold and the platinum rated drivers either. Some spectacular performances from the bronzes and the silvers. It's a question of sink or swim, if you'll pardon the pun, needing to adjust to these conditions as quickly as possible. And we had overlapping between the GTs and the LMP3s early on. That happened actually on the grid as well, with the fastest GTE car ahead of something like 4 or 5 LMP3s on that grid. And then it was nose to tail in the LMP3 category between Euro International and RLR, and this was the moment for RLR when Joop van Uter swooped around the outside of the ultimate car, driven at the time by Jean-Baptiste Lehay, to take the LMP3 lead rather out of the bus stop. Then the battle for LMP2, Nicolas Jamat in the black and dark blue car of Duquesne Engineering, getting the move done on Andrea Pizzitola for G-Drive, and sadly for Jean-Baptiste Lehay, bang into the barriers out of Le Fagnac corner. Just a bit too much right-footed appeared, and that really spiced things up in LMP3 at the time. It was busy in the pit lane during the safety car periods, with cars overlapping, and these two getting far too close for comfort. The 83 of Nick Johnson suddenly having to check up as Alexei Chuklin braked at his normal point, but the Ferrari couldn't stop anywhere near as quickly. Andrea Pizzitola off into the gravel, and it would be 2 visits to the stones down at Campus Corner, after which he handed the car over to Jean-Eric Verne. Little did they know at the time that it would be on course to win the championship just a few hours later. And there is the number 22 car that has won today's 4 hours of Spa. They were crucially out front when the red flag came out. The dice for LMP3 continued. That's also gone the way of the Anglo-American squad, and the 77 car rudely assaulted by Jean-Eric Verne off onto the grass, and it rejoined the track to collide with Ryan Cullen. Those asking about that 2-minute penalty issued to car 26, well, it doesn't matter, because 26 don't have to score points now, by virtue of the fact that only half points have been awarded to everybody else, and it needed to be maximum for teams like Racing Engineering and Edex Sport to claw back a rather large deficit of 34 points coming here. It was extended to 35 points with that pole position awarded to 26 yesterday. And now decided then, the championship going the way of G-Drive Racing, Russian flagged squad, and Andrea Pizzitola, Roman Rusinov and Jean-Eric Verne are your new LMP2 drivers champions.
New father, Felipe Albuquerque, delighted with his afternoon's work, albeit a truncated afternoon, or morning rather, and brings the 22 car back home, safe and sound. Don't slip. He's a very happy Portuguese chappie, and he will get to finish the season on home ground, of course. In comes the EB Motors number 80 Porsche. Manuin GT. Waiting now for the United Autosports number 2. John Falb will bring home the number 2 Ligier. That is a first win overall.
Well, we've got 3 first-time winners this season, with the 22 best results so far, a 3rd place at Red Bull Ring, so easily the best results of the year. It's been, as I suggested, a bit of a nightmare season so far for the 2 squad. John Falb, though, about to celebrate with his co-driver, but Zach Brown is there helping Philippe Albuquerque and Philip Hansen to celebrate. But yes, the first win of the year for the 2 squad and the number 80 EB Motors Porsche as well. Let's hear from Philippe Albuquerque now with Charlie.
Well, Philippe, it's been such a difficult season for you guys and a difficult race today, but you've done it. You've got that win.
I'm so happy. I mean, yeah, we fight so hard this year. Like things were not going right with us, but with hard fight and now all is believing on us. We did a mega qualifying, and today the race was chaotic for everyone, but still stick together with everyone, up and down, and chaotic racing, just with a very dangerous. But I wanted so much to give this win to the guys, and quite dangerous to drive in a way, but I wanted to give as well big lead, so Phil could have a good race if in case he would go back. So I'm just so proud of everything. So great.
Well done, you deserve it.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's
quite emotional there, wasn't he, Philippe Albuquerque?
He is. It's been a hell of a month for him. But as John Falb climbs out of the car, back in winning ways for John Falb, and the number 2 was Scott Andrews on his ELMS debut.
Yeah.
I was going to say, by the way, Philippe Albuquerque, a man who's well used to actually winning races around the world. Congratulations, Phil Hansen, his first ever overall international race win, and that's been a long time coming, and he's deserved that.
Absolutely.
There's been huge efforts from young Phil and the team that surrounds him at United Autosports.
Well, I mean, and it is a joint, it's very much a team sport, this, as we know, and Philip Hansen's got a lot of support, a lot of backing from United Autosports. There's Richard Dean, who's the team principal as well, and he is, first of all, congratulating John Falb on a first race win of the season. And after a cracking year last year, of course, for the American, joined by Sean Rahal all through 2017, not with his regular co-driver this weekend, but it doesn't seem to matter because Scott Andrews put in a great performance. We also need to get a word from EB Motors. That's going to be sorted now. Down with Charlie.
Well, congratulations. It's taken all season, but you've done it. The first win for EB Motors.
Yeah, it has been a very good race. I have 40 seconds of to the second car, and then we are lucky, and the race stopped, so we are first, and we are first. It has the first win for EB Motors, so it's a very fun race and a good day for us.
You're the only person to have said it's a fun race so far. Everybody else hated it out there.
Yeah, because I started the race and there was a lot of water, rain, so it's very difficult. But yeah, I was in first position, and then I'm very happy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Ricardo Pera, still only 19 years old, and that is his first win in the European Le Mans Series, first win for the team, but he has history with EB Motors, having run with them in Porsche Carrera Cup Italia last year, finished second in that championship. So we've dealt with LMP2, we've dealt with GTE, now let's catch up with the LMP3 winners from United again.
John, I know how long you guys have waited this season. It's a shame that Sean's not here to share it, but congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, that was a crazy race. But, I mean, Scott just nailed it. And, he just drove the wheels off that thing. After I got in the car and realized how treacherous it was, it was coming down hard and you couldn't see much of anything. So, hats off to those guys, and hats off to Scott for pushing this car to the front and securing us a win. We're super pumped.
Congratulations, Scott. Your ELMS debut didn't go so bad after all.
Yeah, you couldn't ask for anything better on your debut. That's awesome. Just a huge thanks to the team. They gave me the car to do it. Gary, the engineer, awesome strategy. And, I was able to dodge everything and drive to the front, and that was, I don't have any words. That's awesome, and just thanks to John for having me on board. And I wish Sean could be here, but this is pretty sweet.
Well done, guys.
Thank you.
Sean will be paying close attention, I'm sure, from back home in the States, and we hope that you're ready to race again, fit and well, in Portugal in a month's time. Confirmation then of our curtailed race result. After only 40 laps, United Autosports then, the number 22 car, taking a first win of the season from the Dragon Speed number 21 car. Will Stevens finished in the 23 Panes Barthès competition machine for a podium. Fourth place going to EDEX Sport. Fifth place to Duquesne Engineering. The championship leaders, G-Drive, finishing in 11th place. But it doesn't matter. They've got enough points now to seal the championship. A win in LMP3 for John Falb and Scott Andrews, as we've just established. The second place in the championship car, though, RLRM Sport finished second. That's good for points, as far as, even though half points are the what's being awarded this weekend. 360 Racing with a podium as well. And in GTE, it's EB Motors from Spirit of Race and Proton Competition. So Porsche from Ferrari and Porsche.
Rather oddly American feel to the winners here, with United Autosports, albeit a British-based team, but United States flagged. John Falb, of course, very proud American, and Brett Curtis, an American winner in GTE. Quick mention, by the way, we saw Ricardo Perez there at the end of the race. Fabio Babini in the car at the end of the green flag running, and Fabio, I think, well, he won Le Mans when Ricardo would have been all of 2 years old in 2001. So Fabio Babini, one of the elder statesmen on the grid here, and taking that win, I'm sure would be utterly delighted.
And the question mark now about the third driver in that lineup and whether they will get points. Brett Curtis, isn't it, at EB Motors?
I think the way it works is, in force majeure like this, you do get the points.
Right. And it is only half points, of course.
It is only half points.
Both the team and the drivers. So Brett Curtis probably desperate to get in the car at some point, but won't need to, even though he'll get the points.
Point being made very clearly, by the way, is that whatever happens, what we do know is that Jean-Luc Vergne will not be the champion because he missed that race.
Correct.
So Andrea Pizzitola and Roman Rusinov it is that will share the Drivers' Championship. G-Drive Racing will take the win. And by the way, that is another Le Mans place sorted for 2019.
Yes. Yes, I made the point in earlier broadcasts, but had entirely forgotten that Johnny missed the opening round, didn't he? At Paul Ricard, so he was always been trailing teammates Pizzitola and Rusinov by 12, and can't recover that because, assuming they all race with one another at Portimao as well. But Pizzitola and Rusinov, drivers' champions. So Jean-Eric Vergne will have to make do with merely a Formula E championship 2017 to 18. Much discussion. The Dragon Speed drivers, Ben Hanley, Nicolas Lapierre, another man that hasn't done any driving, Henrik Hedman, but nevertheless he'll get to stand on the podium. Lapierre and Ben Hanley in deep conversation there.
RRM Sports will be just edging closer to an LMP3 championship in what's been a very good year for them too. Just looking, I think, yes they have. They've adjusted the timing now to reflect the, you can see, look, it's tipping it down with rain. Certain shots it almost looks dry, but it's not. It's absolutely tipping it down. They've adjusted the timing screens here to show the penalty for G-Drive Racing. Drops them to 12th in class, 14th overall, and actually behind the two LMP3 winning squads. First going to get the Gentleman's Trophy winning LMP2 squad. It's going to be Sethalava Corsa.
So the drivers of car 47, Felipe Nasser was their co-driver, but it'll be Roberto Lacorte and Giorgio Cernagiotto then to head to the podium as the Gentleman's Trophy winners. And Roberto, again, didn't get to be behind the wheel in car 47. Felipe Nasser is there as well, and they then take their position immediately to the right of the podium, to the left as we look at it. Here are then Panes Bartes Competition with a first podium of the year for their Ligier, the number 23 car, drivers being Will Stevens and Julien Canal and Tim Bourret, who again was somebody who was waiting to get behind the wheel of the car but didn't quite manage it. Second place going the way of Dragon Speed with their Orica 07 then, Henrik Hedman, Ben Hanley and Nicolas Lapierre. That's a second podium of the year, having finished second at Silverstone, but a win for the first time this year, and a second podium after a third place at Red Bull Ring. Phil Hansen and Philippe Albuquerque, joined by Zach Brown on the top of the podium. And we will now hear the national anthem of the winning team. big grins from Philippe Albuquerque and Phil Hansen with his first international victory overall then. And he deserves that for all the bonkersly long stints he's been doing this year. I mean, that was one of the shorter ones actually, but that's the whole point of that project, is to give Hansen as much seat time as possible. First of all, trophies going then to the Gentleman Trophy winners. Felipe Nasser, Giorgio Sernagiotto and Roberto Lacorte at Cetalavi Lorba Corsa. And that Dallara looked quick actually, particularly in the hands of the Brazilian. It was the best of the Italian chassis, and battling actually with AVF for much of the race. Third place going then to Tim Buret, Will Stevens and Julien Canal for Panes Barthez competition.
Young Mr. Hansen, by the way, becomes first British winner in European Le Mans Series for a year. Richard Bradley here last year was the last time a British driver won overall.
Been a long wait.
Actually, apologies, Richard won in the final race as well, so almost a year.
Okay, so that was at Portugal in 2017, but as you say, yes, it's been quite a long wait for Brits who've typically scored very well at Le Mans with podiums, but ELMS victories slightly rarer to come by.
Actually, Britain each step I've just noticed there with Ben Hanley and Will Stevens.
So Zach Brown makes a quick exit. The champagne, though, is about to be sprayed by everybody else involved there. And what is already a soaking podium is made even worse, but by some sweet-smelling champagne. And well-deserved glug, I'm sure, for much of those drivers too. A very stressful 2 hours of racing. We just had gone into the third hour when the red flag came out, and therefore half points can be awarded but no more, as the guys from Cetalavi Lorba Corsa take an active role in liberally spraying Phil Hansen and Philippe Albuquerque in celebration, and Ben Hanley, big grin on his face as well for a second place finish. That's 2 second places back to back now, Silverstone and here at Spa-Francorchamps, with one more round to go. The 4 hours of Portimao to the south of Portugal in a month's time.
Hopefully, slightly better weather conditions, Johnny.
Yes, you can but hope, really, and typically Portimao does turn on the weather for us. Here is the LMP2 result alone then, so take out anybody else, the LMP3 and the GTEs, and it is still obviously a win for United Autosports from Dragon Speed, Panis Bartis Competition and EDEC Sport. The 12 car though the 26 car drops outside of the top 10 and finishes 12th in class, 14th overall. We get to see page 2 of the standings. That will be confirmed. I beg your pardon, these are overall results as well. So there is the LMP3 winner, United Autosports, in car number 2. But the championship leaders coming here to Spa still pick up useful points in second position. 360 Racing will make more Brits on the podium, and a first win for Italian squad EB Motors, having won last year's Michelin Le Mans Cup. With their Lamborghini Huracan, they had to switch to a Porsche because that gave them an invitation to the Le Mans 24 Hours for this year. And seeing as they invested in a GTE car and one of the brand new ones, why not take it racing through the ELMS this season as well? So they have to wait till round 5 to get their first victory in the GTE category. But we're now dealing with the LMP3 podium then. Finishing in third position for 360 Racing, it's Terence Woodward and Ross Kaiser. Second place to the championship leaders RLRM Sport, John Ferrano, Jock van Outert and Rob Garafall. But the win to John Falb and to Scott Andrews. There is a big grin and thumbs up from John and from Scott just behind. And it's all about the 2-driver United Autosports teams here, isn't it? They've done it in LMP2. They also did it in LMP3, and we will hear the American national anthem for the second time. John Falb and Scott Andrews deep in conversation, I think mainly about the shenanigans of the team down below at ground level, because United Autosports will be planning a big night, I'm sure, after the D-rig here. And in the championship, yes, okay, some points gathered back for the number 2 squad, but it's a little bit too late for those guys. 360 Racing will move on to 53.5 points, and that might well put them, I think it does put them second in the championship now, ahead of United car number 3 and ahead of Euro International. And we have a tight little battle actually developing now in P3 with still 26 points on offer, a gap of just 14, I make it, between RLR M Sport and 360 Racing. Where did the number 3 car finish in the end? 4th place, which will take it to 52.5. God, it's tight. So I reckon RLR M Sport are on 67.5 now as the champagne sprays. 360 Racing 53.5. United 52.5. And therefore something like 21 points separate the top 4 teams going to Portimao. The next slate will give us the positions in the LMP3 category then from the 4 hours of Spa-Francorchamps. A win for car number 2 United Autosports, who were 8th in the championship coming here. RLR M Sport keep their championship ticking over nicely with 9 points added to their tally. And 360 Racing have potentially brought themselves into contention here with 1 race to go. Likewise, United Autosports, they finished 4th. The 18 car wasn't really in the championship fight, although finished 5th in this race, ahead of Cool Racing after a cracking stint again from Antonin Borger. And I don't think Borger, oh no, he had got out of the car and handed it over to Kwani, but Kwani pretty much, his job was to run the car around behind the safety car and then the red flag.
One thing I should just add, because I've just noticed it, which is that the Proton competition team, after that big nerf, we're just looking now at the race classification, they come home a classified 5th. They did get the 77 car back out with Dennis Olsen after repairs for the rather rude interruption to their race from John-Eric Verne. So EB Motors take the win from Spirit of Race 55 from the 88 championship leading Proton competition Porsche, then the JMW Motorsports Ferrari, the 77 Proton car, and another car involved in someone else's accident, Krone Racing, the 83, eliminated in that clash with the 5 LMP3 car at La Source.
So Podium being redressed, and it is therefore being prepared for the presentation for GTE. And we managed to get 5 of the 6 cars to the finish. The 83, 2 badly damaged after its altercation with the LMP3 number 5 car, the Nefis Speed Factory machine, for which Alexei Chuklin was penalised. And there again, a view of the brave photographers and the podium girls as well, either side of the podium in these horrendous conditions. But to the 3rd step of the podium, in car number 88, it looked far better than that yesterday after a great performance from Matteo Cairoli in qualifying. But Gianluca Roda and Giorgio Roda will just be pleased to have survived that and picked up some points, joined by their Italian teammate. A wave to the camera from Duncan Cameron, joined by Matt Griffin and Aaron Scott, who get 2nd place for Spirit of Race in their 55 numbered Ferrari. But a first win of the season and only a 2nd podium for EB Motors. I beg your pardon, they've had a few more podiums than that along the way. I think this is their 4th podium actually, so they've been there or thereabouts. But it is a first win for Fabio Babini, Riccardo Pera and Brett Curtis, the man who didn't get to do any driving but does stand on the top step of the podium. EB Motors then, a first victory in the European Le Mans Series for 2018.
Must be some Italian in me. That always cheers me up. That anthem.
There's something about that piece of music, isn't there? It's just typically Italian, really, and conjures up many of the characters from that country, not least in motorsport. And there are 3 of those guys on the 3rd step. The ultimate in I don't know, going against the will, though, of the Italian people driving a Porsche. But nevertheless, Matteo Cairoli and the two roaders do it very, very well, Gianluca and Giorgio. There's another Italian car, and with 3 Brits on the podium. No, one Irishman. Sorry, Matt. You're quite right to point that out. So, Irishman Matt Griffin, who did a lot of the driving in that. Duncan Cameron did really well, actually, to keep the car on the straight and narrow. And Alex McDowell, I don't think, got to drive the car.
Aaron Scott.
Yes, McDowell in the other Ferrari. Sorry about that.
Okay,
Aaron Scott standing on the left of the
nothing
picture.
away from EP Motors. Great win. And drove to the front, kept it there, while all around them stumbled. Duncan Cameron, I think, actually made up some ground on Christian Reed, didn't he, before Christian's race was interrupted?
So, the points still to be decided in GTE at Portimao and in LMP3 as well, but we have new 2018 champions in LMP2. Congratulations to Pit Titola and Roman Rusinov. We head to Portimao next.
Start to the 4 hours of Portimao.